And now on Who's Views, it's time for the latest headlines with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Welcome to Who's Views on Sunday, the 30th of March, 2025. This is your big show. It's headlines. Hello, everybody. It is good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you for ages, honestly. I really, really do. But now here we are again with another smashing great big show for you. Lots to talk about this evening in this particular show because have you heard? RTD is reusing ideas from 40 and 60 years ago. I was shocked by that, by the way. Not really at all, eh? Yes, it's Take Me Home. We're going to be looking at the fact that the majority of fandom have already gone home. That's all coming up in the show for you here as well. And Ncuti Gatwa, our lead, has said that Series 2 will be loved by lifelong fans. Well, we're all going to be the judge of that, are we? As lifelong fans, we'll be telling him if we're going to love it. And we've got a special bit for you all coming up because our favorite woke journalist, I say journalist loosely and in inverted commas, she is back in this particular show. Can't wait to hear what she's saying about this. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll come to you all in the chat in a minute. Let's bring on the Whotastic panel. Here's Third Dr. Ian. What sort of week have you had, Third Dr. Ian?
I've had a bit of a busy week. I had 2 days off doing housey stuff, then back into the fray, late nights, sadly, and cracking on through the season 7 box set as well.
How are you getting on with that? You're loving it?
Once I got my telly back up on the wall, because I've been chasing cables in and, I don't like cables. So, Silurians, oh my God, that is just... I mean, I know Spearhead is my all-time favourite and Third Doctor and anything, but Silurians, Barry, first story, he hits the ground running. That is an incredible story. It really is. It really is. Loving every second of it.
Is the quality of it really good as well?
Yeah. I think considering the material that they've got, where they've actually come from, what the Silurians look like, say, 20, 25 years ago, grainy black and white or very dodgy washed out American VHS copies and things like that, considering how they've got it from there to what it is now is an absolute work of art. Hats off to them, really. You can't fault them for it, and it'll always be like that now. It'll only ever get better and better and better, and I think it will get better. I think at some point we'll have AI enhancements of video material.
Oh yeah.
And it'll be like you're actually in the studio watching it. It'll be as live. I think
it's all on the way, isn't it? It's all on the way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at
like that, I don't mind as long as it keeps. It doesn't alter it in any way, shape, or form. We're not talking war games in color. They just as long as it leaves it untouched, apart from enhanced. Then that's all right by me, to be fair.
Yeah. When you look at the lovely stuff that Daryl Joyce is doing with his animation,
have you seen his latest one?
Yes, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Frontier Inspector. I mean, that has my first earliest memory, which is the Daleks appearing over the cliff in episode 6. It's got that in it, and it's just what I'm presuming. I don't think anybody's funding him for this. I think he's doing it himself entirely, just a labour of love. And those animations he does are superior to anything that's animated on those DVDs. I think it's give that man a budget. Give him a budget. Give him a team. And can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's very easily.
Yeah.
I would. I was saying on Live at 6. I was saying, I would watch that sort of animation because it's really, really good. Fantastic.
Me too. I would buy it any day.
Lots of you in the chat with us already saying good evening to us. So thank you. Humans call me Steve as well. There, Jonathan Warcraft, good afternoon. Well, good evening. And Mudcrab, the happy Mondays. I still love them. Yes, it's Mondays where Mudcrab is, but with this, it is a Sunday night. Good to see you all. And Legion of James saying happy Mother's Day to all you wonderful mums out there. Absolutely. It's Mother's Day here in the United Kingdom today. So happy Mother's Day, mums. And my mum in particular. Happy Mother's Day. Great to see you all there, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this. Your headlines is I've got so much for you this evening, everybody. It's great to see you all. Now, listen, Third Doctor Ian, unfortunately, Paul has got to work. He's got to work
That's
tonight.
outrageous. That's outrageous. Yeah, I question his commitment.
You know, he's got a lot of lines to learn for this production he's doing tonight. I don't envy him at all. I actually said to him, Who Views, for this production he's got to do with all these lines, try and fit in somewhere, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow into this thing you're doing.
I used to be chair of governors at a primary school, and the previous chair of governors stepped to be deputy chair. And he was an ex-head teacher, and he would give me very bizarre words that I had to slip into that meeting. And it was just this little game. It was good fun. It was good fun, to be honest, especially when nobody else clicked. You thought, haha, we're having a bit of fun.
Hi to Jane, and hello, Georgia Donald. How are you? Evening all, says Georgia. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for being with us. Oh, hello. The Nate channel. Nice to see you. I've not seen you before here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, guys. I love this channel. You are a person of taste. That's all. Yeah. Nice to see you. Thank you so much. And thank you for subscribing. I hope you've subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. If you've already subscribed, please make sure you're still subscribed. Phew. The amount of times I have to say that now, Third Doctrine. Mark, hello, family. I hope all well. Oh, well, that's nice, isn't it? Thank you so much. Yeah. Nothing is saying I'm on the Third Doctor now for the first time. Yeah, great. Hope you enjoyed that. Andy Gladhill, Stylorians is where I am with my Stephen 7 box set. And Stephen Bradford, Stylorians has never looked better. They never did. Those original ones, please. Ezra Goldstein's with us. Hello, lovely. How are you? Good to see you. And Paul Schlafter. Got home from work this afternoon and watched Pyramids of Mars, the original, not that nonsense from last year. I'll never watch that version again. It's a load of old rubbish. Well
That's
said.
being generous.
Marjorie's with us as well. Can't believe they used the Phil Collins song "Take Me Home" in the trailer. I hope they pay him. They have to pay him. But I was a bit annoyed about that as well, Marjorie, because of course that is a brilliant song from an equally brilliant album. In fact, I love Phil Collins, actually. Great album. So when I heard that, I thought, you're kidding. You're kidding. I'm actually quite surprised that those people actually involved with the current Doctor Who know who Phil Collins is, to be honest. Do you know what I'm saying?
Bit of a shock, isn't it?
It is, really. Well, I had to pick myself off the floor. Paul Rose is saying, Ian, I have around 40 to 50 Blu-ray and DVD changes, AV equipment and home cinema pieces of kit. Haven't even unpacked all the cabling yet. How I'll ever get back together, I have no idea.
Just reverse the polarity, the neutron flow, and they'll all work fine.
Well said. And we've got Dunky the Funky Evans with us saying, hi all, I've been struggling with the Savages animation this week, still only halfway through the episodes. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you have been struggling with that, to be honest. Great to see you all. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here with us, everybody. There's a lot of you in the chat here. So we've got this one. I got my Third Doctor figure in the mail, says the Nate channel. Did you see our show on Friday? Oh, good grief, what a load of nonsense that was. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It was Friday nonsense. I think we were all in a silly mood, to be honest. Mark Greaves, thank you for your super chat. Hiya. Today is a tough day for us without mums, but being with JT, Ian, Paul, Kirsty, and every single one of you in the chat helps beyond words. Mark, yes, yeah, we know. What can we say? You don't want to think about it, do you? But
if people can find some comfort in sharing with us on this very welcoming channel, then that's all the better, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's also a day I find Mother's Day for remembering those mums that aren't with us. You know, so it's a special day, I think, and more should be done with it. I was very disappointed and annoyed that our government here didn't bother to say Happy Mother's Day at all, and our Prime Minister didn't. Bit of an amiss there. Ooh, bit of politics. That's what's coming in.
Minority though, does it? So you know.
Oh, exactly. Digital Pollution's with us as well. Hello, Digital Pollution. It's good to see you. And I've got a super chat there from Digby. Who's saying, have you fine chaps seen the YouGov poll that was discussed on Doctor Who TV that the show has basically disappeared as far as 18 to 25-year-olds are concerned? Well, it's a little bit spooky that you're saying that, actually. That was terrible. Digby, because, of course, we are going to be talking about that very subject in this particular show. So stay with us, everybody. Lots coming up for you. I am delighted to say that, actually, that Third Doctor Ian and myself are not alone this evening. Yes, Paul's got to go off and earn a living. God love him. So I'm absolutely delighted to say that another of the Whotastic panel are joining us tonight. And by goodness, he's got a few things to say about some of the features that we've got coming up. It is, of course, put your hands together for Bidweer. Hello there.
Good evening, everyone. JT's called in a substitute, and here I am.
Exactly. But thank you so much for joining us. I was going to bring you in actually as well, because we've got something that ties in very nicely with ratings as a story, wasn't it? So you and I had to chat about it in the week, so it's great here. Stephen Braddock is saying, look at this, guys. Never mind take me home, more like take my grass. That sounds a bit dodgy. Actually,
well,
careful.
It's that time of year where I need to start cutting the grass and putting it out to be collected. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it is. We've had a beautiful day here today in the UK. It's been absolutely gorgeous. But as a gardener, I'm saying it's still not the right time to cut your grass. Wait for a couple of weeks. Robert Payne, will Phil Collins be in a download chart now under the 20? Now the under 20s have heard him for the first time. It's not going to have the Kate Bush effect from Stranger Things. This one, unfortunately, because you don't know it's him. It's not on in the show unless it is in the show, which would cost him even more money. But it's a shame, isn't it, really? But I was stunned when we talked about it. Listen, let's get into it all now. But firstly, as usual, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been getting in touch with us this week. We really do appreciate it, as ever, via comments on the channel, on our shows, or by getting in touch with us at whosviews1@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us anytime. I just want to reiterate, it does take me a while to get back, but I will get back in touch eventually. But whosviews1@gmail.com. And I want to say a huge thank you this week to Problem Being, to Mark Milford, to Steve Hinley, to Colin Smith, to James Smead, to Lex Kane, to James Watkins, to Eddie J. Riley, to Martin Dusty54, to James Hillis, to Andrew Priest, to Paul Stenterford, to John Mason, and to Bill Stephen Lowry. Thank you so much, everybody, for writing in and getting in touch. But yes, this is the week where it was announced that Doctor Who Series 2 for Disney Who will, in fact, have a theme. Surprise, surprise. The theme, though, is Take Me Home, as we've been chatting about already. Yes, another trailer dropped this week, and it did include the fantastic Phil Collins song. As I say, a lot of people won't understand what it is, I'm sure, but hopefully they'll understand it. But not only did that drop, but they dropped some of this. This was one of two posters. So this was the first poster. It says, Get Her Home. And this was the poster that arrived yesterday, which you may not have seen. One Hell of a Journey Home. So again, this could be another sort of, I don't know, a hint as to what's to come from the 8 episodes. But interesting posters. Has anyone got a radio on?
Not me.
My infinitely better half is watching the telly through there.
Oh, right. Okay.
I've asked her to turn it down a bit. Apologies.
No worries.
I'm a bit scared, so I won't go through.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. But listen, we've got that. So lots of posters that came out, as I say, this week. That one, however, inspired a hell of a lot of people, including these two. Look at these, everybody. Sophie Lister said just the one on the left there, Get Them Home. And an unknown artist put the one with the Davison Doctor and Tegan Devante, Get Her Home there. I thought these were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So congratulations for these.
Superb.
Aren't they gorgeous?
They really are.
Are they perhaps implying that we've seen this plot before?
Could they be, I wonder? Could they be? I think they probably are.
Reuse. It's not like RTD to plunder other people's ideas, though, is it?
No, not really. It isn't, is it? It absolutely isn't. But yeah, I mean, we've said this. I said this at the top of the show. Basically, what he's done with this whole "Take Me Home" thing is taken an idea from 60 and 40 years ago, and he thinks it's clever. I think, does he think it clever? Is it new? I think it's totally bizarre, but that's where we're at. The trailer, of course, blink and you'll miss it. It was another one of these little things, wasn't it, really? So it's more of a teaser rather than a trailer. I'm quite surprised, though, guys, because it had the usual, it's the same 3 episodes they're pushing in each of these trailers. Have you noticed? It's the same stories, the same costumes, the same sets. So they're only giving away the same, the first 3 episodes, possibly 4. But that's traditional for them as well, isn't it? Because that's all they've ever done in the RTD era, it was those first few. But I was quite surprised that nobody's commented. Now, am I reading too much into this, Who viewers? Let me know. But did you see the graphic at the end? So I'm going to set the cat among the pigeons now. That's regeneration energy.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or it could just be the entire series exploding in its own.
I was going to say, or it's a symbol of the fact the show's on fire and burning to the ground.
A dumpster is just about to materialize around it.
I haven't seen anybody else commenting about it, and yet the thing I saw at the very end of that was, hang on a minute, they used it in the 60th as well, didn't they? That whole, or, the 60th year. And I just thought, hang on.
I think that's the only way they can really grab an audience now is by hinting to a regeneration, because a regeneration is about the only thing that gets people that aren't regular viewers to actually tune in and find out who's the next one going to be, or I don't know. I think it's a last roll of the dice, and whether there is a regeneration at the end into someone else, or whether it's left open-ended for someone else to pick up, we shall see. But not my initial reaction was regeneration energy. It was more this stuff is on fire.
Well, I'm putting it out there, everybody. Start the rumor.
It's sad, isn't it? It's sad, isn't it, when the only thing that they've got for a bump in the ratings is to get their lead actor to leave. But the problem they've got this time is that they've got, like with Whittaker, they've got somebody leaving that nobody gives a crap about. So, what's it going to do, really?
Yeah.
But
has no impact.
If you think back to that week between the Stolen Earth and Journey's End, where you had the regeneration used as a cliffhanger, and everyone freaked out thinking, "Oh my God, David Tennant's leaving," it shot the ratings up the following week. Yeah. And it was really effective. And short of bringing back the Daleks, if they were going to do a Dalek episode, surely they'd plug it in a trailer. Those are about the only two things that can stop the trend downwards that we've seen in the ratings.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. That is a regeneration, says Marjorie. Hi, Marjorie. And Huge Janus is saying to us, a large mid-regen fart cloud.
I think he's got it.
Oh, can you imagine? Noodle Arms is saying a flaming argument is taking place behind the scenes, and they show it like that. And Mark Milford is saying No Jacket Required was a huge album. Shame it was tainted. Yeah, I know what you're saying, so we won't go into that, but it is a brilliant album. Absolutely fantastic. Mudcrap, Scorched Earth Tactics. If RTD can't own it, then he is burning it to the ground as he retreats. Ezra is also saying to us, Doctor Who is burning down.
I think the second poster you showed is quite interesting, in particular, JT, because you do have that. Does whatever the planet behind our lead characters does seem to be sort of glowing. Earth is in the top right-hand corner, so they're also stood on something. There's quite a bit going on, but who knows if that's finale stuff or just usual nonsense.
Definitely a hint, though, isn't it? One hell of a journey home and all this. It is a hint, because they're really going for it on this particular one now. They're taking the time, but Julianne is saying to us, it's degeneration. Duncan the Funky Evans, all the stunt casting has failed. Try faking a regeneration. It's RTD copying himself. I think it is. I think it's something to do with trying to get people to watch the show again. Peter Ventwood fansite is saying it's dead, Jim. And Small Swell Goat, no one liked the bi-regen, so RTD will probably do another one precisely because no one liked it. That'll teach them. So I believe the rumours about the Rani. Do you? Yes, actually, I believe anything right now. We absolutely do. Tim Kintz, nice to see you. Has anyone got any cream for that burn? Oof. And Martin Brown saying to us, I've heard rumours that Matt Smith is coming back as the next Doctor.
They couldn't afford him.
They couldn't afford it. And that because David Tennant came back again, the Smith fans are obviously keen on trying to get Smith back again, but there's no
Yeah,
way.
those flames will not be Matt Smith burning his career. He's not going to do that, is he?
Exactly. Yeah, he's too busy. And Paul Rose is saying it doesn't matter what they do with marketing at this point. Me and JT are sharing that Who's Views pencil. No, we're not. I'm having it myself. But yeah, I want to put it out there. Hello, Just Jordan. Nice to see you. It'd be our luck that he generates into himself.
God.
Woo! How's your dad? Is he all right? Hope he's doing well. Hello to Mosho. Or Mosh. Hello, fellow Who fans. Are you looking forward to an absolute rubbish Doctor Who series this April? Looking forward. I'm preparing myself. I'm currently in mental gymnastics right now, ready for the 8 weeks that are coming towards us of this thing every single week. Next week here on Who's Views, we're going to be telling you our plans for April and beyond when it comes to the new series. So come back and join us next week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you have already subscribed to the channel, make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. And Mosh, nice to see you. I haven't seen you before, right? So welcome to Who's Views. Lovely to see you. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. That's just the first bit, everybody. It really is. Because, wow, what a week it has been. Because this week, if you've not noticed, because it is subdued these days, it's very rare that WHSmith is going now as well. So goodness knows if they're going to keep Doctor Who magazine now that WHSmith, on sadly, very sadly, after over 100 years trading on the British High Street, has now been bought over and it's going to be changing its name. Such a sad time, isn't it, really? You know?
A bit of a non-entity name as well, isn't it? Was it TJ Jones or something?
It's something Jones, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's TJ Jones. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Like,
why do they have to change the name? Why can't they just call it WHSmith? It's been there for over 100 years.
I think they're keeping it at airports. I don't know about railway stations, but they're keeping it.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Any outlets in transport links were not part of the deal, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but apparently, maybe that means they'll not be able to run. I don't know.
Sad days. It's sad days for our retail, but yes, one of the few places that still stock Doctor Who magazine, which came out this week. This is the unbranded cover for the collectors, the subscribers, with this bloody awful outfit, which has had a lot of criticism on social media as soon as they put this cover out there. What the hell is he wearing? Now, I'm going to state this right now. That is not a kilt. I am fed up with people saying that is a kilt. That is not a kilt. That's a bloody skirt. It's not a kilt. No.
She's dressed more masculine than he is.
It also seems to be matching his top, so it suggests it's an all-in-one for a start.
I think it might be a waistcoat with the skirt, but I'm saying that is not a kilt. It really isn't.
Absolute bloody idiot, doesn't it?
Digital
it's
pollution.
Not foreign, is it?
Look at that for digital pollution. What the is that? Andy is saying yes. It's a bloody skirt. Nothing. What are you saying to us? Unfortunately, you have to remortgage a small country to buy a drink from WHSmith.
Well, similarly, Doctor Who magazine, the cover price is like $10.99.
Yes, it is. It's shocking, and it's something like $7.99 every month. It's special.
I wouldn't know. I've stopped it now.
Well, yeah, this one I was in one of those sealed envelope ones this time around because it's got alleged freebies in. So if you've bought it, was it worth the money you've spent for it? Let us know.
Do you mean desperate bribes in there rather than freebies? Because that's all it is, isn't it? Please buy this, and we'll put all this free crap in it.
I don't know what the freebies were because I couldn't be bothered looking at the thing, but there we go. Yes, JT, yes, the new TG Jones are going to pull away from magazines and books in town and concentrate on travel. It will really affect Doctor Who magazine. Well, it will, because the only people then who can take it then are the supermarkets, and not many of them do. I know that Tesco do on reduced numbers. It's very sad days when we're losing to WHSmith. It's awful. I'm very sad about it.
I got so many of the novels from WHSmith. I got the 5 Doctors novel 2 or 3 days, obviously, as it did before 5 Doctors went out in '83. I got that from WHSmith's at York Railway Station. Read it cover to cover that night. Spoiling the entire story for myself, obviously, which wasn't particularly bright. But yeah, WHSmith's, it's ingrained there, isn't it?
Well,
I used to get my VHS tapes. I remember getting the Trial of a Time Lord tin in the WHSmith in Swansea.
Yeah,
many years ago.
It really is the end of an era. And that's usually used as a dramatic effect. But this is true. WHSmith has been in the UK for over 100 years. It's such a sad time. Paul Stenford is saying about the cover, that is Gat wearing a dress. That'll sell copies of Doctor Who magazine. Graham wants to know, what is he wearing? No wonder this programme is going to pot. Noodle Arms is joining in by saying, people might say that Jamie wore a kilt and this is a kilt, but it's not. It's a skirt, end of. It's a utility skirt, apparently, says Julianne Goodwin. What the hell's that? Do you get it down to Army and Navy?
No, he keeps his Tampax in one of the pockets, probably. Because
there are trousers there underneath. I don't know.
There were trousers underneath, according to it. Yeah, and boots. It might have just been better with the waistcoat and the trousers and the boots. So it's a Gallifreyan kilt, says Domgo. And Duncan the Funky Evans is saying it's definitely not a kilt and not a Scotsman because he's wearing something underneath it. Margie, it's a kilt. It's a dress, not a kilt. Yeah. That is not a kilt, says Paul Rose. It's just cringe and embarrassing. How can you root for that as your hero? Oh, no.
At least Colin Baker is no longer the most ridiculously dressed Doctor. Let's be grateful for that.
And it's every week as well. Still no actual Doctor outfit, says Just Jordan. And Terrified Monkeys saying, when did Shooty raid my closet? I had the same thing with Lady Gaga when she nicked all my stuff, I tell you. Ooh, absolutely awful woman. 1099, yes, 1099, John Mason. And Aaron Sutherland's with us saying a kilt does not have pleats at the front. Exactly. Hello, Darren Ap Ken. It's almost like they want to send their sales down even further. I don't like that photograph on there as well, actually. John Keeley is saying it for us. I'm Scottish and it's not a kilt, it's a fecking skirt. Exactly.
It's another low-angled shot looking up, much like that second poster. What's with that? Is this the Richard Martin School of Directing that we need to, look up at things to make them look powerful?
He's trying to prove that he has got something underneath his skirt. Thankfully.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just think it's a bit tired, the whole thing. Sheila B. and the Devotions used to love WHSmith, especially for their January book sale. I got some great books in the 70s. Oh, yeah, it is sad times here. But that is Doctor Who magazine. It came out on Thursday, issue 615, as you can see very clearly there. In it, there's an awful lot of information, so let's go through some of it. And at this point, I want to say thanks, Jane Smee, who is in the chat with us today, because she sent me this part of Doctor Who magazine. Oh, you're not going to believe this, but are we in for a more continuity rewrites this season? It could look like it, because have a check out of this from Russell T Davies in it. My favorite thing about a new series of Doctor Who is the lorry load of lore that's about to be delivered. And I don't just mean sci-fi lore, although there's some of that this year. New Time Lord facts, new things about Gallifrey, just a smattering, some good stuff. But I mean the sheer existence of names and words and dialogue that will now become part of that ever-revolving cyclone of fan lore. Here we go again, everybody. What's he going to do now, Ian?
It's quite arrogant, isn't it? Really, and he doesn't understand. I think that nobody gives a toss what he says anymore.
No. Why can't they just leave it alone? So he killed off the Time Lords back in 2004 for 2005, and he got rid of them all. And you have to keep me right. Chibnall brought them back. No, Moffat brought them back. No, he brought them back. RTD brought them back.
He brought them back. Yeah.
How confusing is this? As I said a couple of weeks ago, this reboot Who has more baggage when it finishes off the air than the original series did.
No, well, he brought them back in Tennant's Regeneration episode.
That's right.
Then they all disappeared. So then Moffat brings them back in Day of the Doctor. And then again in the Capaldi era, then they disappear again for reasons I can't properly understand even now. And then Chibnall brings them back only for the Master to kill them all off and turn them into Cybermen. And I think that was where it was left.
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, on the trailer, he still says he's a Time Lord, doesn't he? But it's been established now that he isn't. He's the descendant of a little black girl from an alien civilization that was found and brought to Gallifrey, so he's not even a Time Lord.
Oh, look, you've lost me again. The Doctor's a Time Lord. It's ridiculous.
So it's interesting. I was watching the discussion you had about whether it's time to give this show a rest. And this is
Yeah.
part of the problem, is because certainly the Moffat era onwards, Doctor Who got so caught up in its own mythology and self-referential nonsense. Every episode you've had to link into the overarching narrative, that the general audience walked away because they couldn't, if they missed one episode, they felt they couldn't keep up with it, so they stopped watching it, and that's why you've seen a decline in numbers. So if they're going back to this strategy of let's try and lure the fans back with more Tales of Gallifrey, then the general public aren't going to watch, and you've already alienated the core fandom anyway. So it's not worth it. It's pointless.
It's not worth it at all, is it? But here it comes. We're going to be looking out for it, of course, in our reviews. Whenever it's going to be so badly written, I can say that right now. I'm sure. We've got Digital Pollution saying to us, red flags are going off everywhere. And we've got Julianne saying to us, super, more RTD pissing on Classic Who. He loves it, doesn't he? Bill's a little bit strong with saying more RTD. And Armour Ray, when does season 2 start? It starts not next week, but the week after, on the 12th of April. Saturday, the 12th of April, 8 o'clock on the iPlayer if you're in the United Kingdom. Don't know about elsewhere in the world. You'll have to look it up on Disney Plus. But 8 o'clock on the iPlayer in the UK. And we still don't know what time the BBC are showing it on BBC One. I'm sure that'll be released this week or next, but I'm expecting it this week. So there you go. And Andrew Dexter, good to see you. Horrible man, leave it alone. Exactly. Legion of James is with us as well, saying he's deliberately destroying it. We rejected it, so he's actively spitting it in the proper fans' faces like a petulant child throwing a tantrum. You get that feeling about RTD sometimes, don't you? That he is now just very, very haphazard with it all. He doesn't care as much about it. He's rewritten it into his image. It was rejected. And bearing in mind that he wrote all this stuff at the same time as he wrote the first 9 episodes, 10 episodes, wherever it is, it's a bit concerning. But there have been reshoots, haven't there? That's the thing. Have they added to it? Have they edited it? Don't know.
That's probably why they haven't showed you clips of the last 4 episodes, because they're still desperately refilming.
Yeah.
And Shooty thinks we'll all love it anyway, so...
Yeah, he's clueless.
We've got a bit more coming from them. Digby, is RTD about to bring Gallifrey back as Wakanda with time travel? We're laughing. We're laughing. And Chris Graham, hello, Chris. I want Gallifrey back. Time Lord Cybermen were the worst.
That was horrendous.
It was horrible.
I'm so glad I missed all that stuff, by the way, everybody.
I mean, you should watch it, JT, just to appreciate how dreadful it was.
I don't want to.
It might put this current era in a bit more perspective. I don't know.
No, it's bad enough. It's bad enough with this version. I don't know if I want anything else. Jane Smith saying he doesn't understand that we hate all the law tampering. He thinks he's giving us Easter eggs. He should know, though. He really should know. And Stephen Braddock saying Doctor Who is getting so caught up in its own narrative it will disappear up its own black hole. It's on the way, isn't it?
Is it any wonder that the general audience has walked away from the show?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Bryn Mawr Mendy. Hello, not seen you on the channel before. Welcome to Who's Views. It's nice to see you. What's this? Do it? Have I said that right? What was that buzz about continuity and sanity with the Rani, Susan, and Omega? No way, that's legit, eh? It's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah. I mean, we have got, we're going to go through in one of our future shows, the guest list here. So we've got some nice guests coming into this version of the show. And we've got, what's the name from The Good Wife, whose name I've completely forgotten now, but she's a nice actress. You know,
but they're wasted, aren't they? They're wasted.
Hey? Yeah.
They're just wasted, aren't they?
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Shame.
Nice to see you, Bryn Mawr. And Nothing is saying it's time for an invisible doctor. It's strange you should say that, because apparently there is at least one episode in these next episodes coming up where the doctor is invisible because he ain't in him. Again.
Was Shooty doing sex education again, like last year?
Was he doing that? I don't know.
Doing his nails.
Was the schedule too much for him?
Poor Flower.
Yeah,
Poor Flower.
He's not used to doing 8-hour shifts.
Bill Hartnell, 48 weeks a year, but push.
At his age as well.
Yeah.
At his age. Yes, so we've got that from that's the whole thing about the Time Lord. So again, thanks to Jane Smith for sending me that. Really appreciate it. We've had other stuff coming out for it as well. So in Doctor Who magazine, he addresses the leak of the date. So we went to Radio Times for this particular one. Doctor Who's Russell T Davies addresses season 15 release date leak. He had a light-hearted response to the accidental reveal. The story continues. RTD has addressed the release date for the new season of Doctor Who accidentally being announced early, describing it as an example of a lovely mad glitch. The 12th of April launch date was initially revealed in a bizarre way during BBC Sport coverage of the Under-20 Six Nations Rugby, before later being officially confirmed by the BBC. In a light-hearted update for DWM, RTD wrote, "We were intending to announce our transmission date of the 12th of April to the world at the beginning of March, until Saturday, 22nd of February, when the entire production team awoke to the news that the date had been leaked during, incredibly, half-time of the Under-20 Six Nations England versus Scotland match available on the BBC iPlayer via the red button. Okay, it became an exciting morning. Texts fly. People scramble to fix it. At one point, the whole match is pulled off the iPlayer. I send an email. Bit tough on the rugby mums. The match is restored." RTD added, "But why and how? Oh, glitches, systems, end boards, etc. It was an honest mistake, but I think this is fun. Remember last year when a trailer was dropped on Facebook on the wrong morning for about 20 minutes and it was seen by absolutely no one? What this proves is you now have to watch every single second of any BBC transmission anywhere in case you catch a lucky break. What a great strategy." He's still very good with the spin, isn't he?
I mean, he's suggesting there's a strategy. I mean, this whole idea of the BBC being one interlinked corporation is just nonsense, isn't it? It just one department doesn't know what the other's doing, and when you've got something like Doctor Who, which is going on to iPlayer early, you really are putting a lot of faith in those that are responsible for looking after iPlayer and putting all those idents in. And I watched some of the Under-20 Six Nations, and because it wasn't, I suppose, full coverage with a panel and commentary at halftime and all that sort of stuff, they were filling with clips. And if there's a bank of just iPlayer trails and that happens to be amongst it, then yeah, it's an easy mistake to make. But where's the control of this content?
Well, it doesn't help now, of course, that the BBC isn't the BBC anymore. All its productions are independent. You've also got, I mean, this never happened in the days when it was at the Donut, when everybody was under the same roof and working together and able to go down the corridor or down the stairs to speak to somebody else about how to plan something. Now you've got to do it via emails or text or WhatsApp groups, God forbid, or anything else, it'll be all this sort of stuff doing it now. They don't go, and that's why the mistakes will happen and miscommunication will happen, or they've reread things incorrectly. Yeah, that's what's happening here, and it's such a shame. And it's because the BBC is not what it was, really.
I mean, calling it a leak suggests that it's been released maliciously and deliberately, and I think it's probably more a case of the people who set the date for it to be released didn't communicate it properly to the people who did the rest, and they just went with it. You can't blame them, because they must have got that information from somewhere, because it's accurate. So they just went with it. I don't think it was a leak. I just think it was a typical BBC screw up, or something that they did deliberately just to try and get a few more column inches. Do you remember releasing the first episode of Rose 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Unofficially.
That was a different setup as well, wasn't it? Because that was all in BBC Wales. That was a BBC Wales production. Whereas now you've got Bad Wolf in there, you've got Disney Plus in there, you've got the iPlayer involved in there, you've got the production office there, you've got the BBC studios in there. It's so convoluted these days, isn't it? Really, but probably it's totally a leak and not at all a contrived marketing ploy. And Stephen Braddock coming on the back of that saying that was a leak, all right. It was a deliberate leak.
No, I think it's just because they will have delivered all this content, clearly too soon. It's just gone into a pile of, these are our idents for iPlayer trails in between programs, and yeah, it's just a lack of communication, or you know, in the old days, you had embargoes and things like that. You know, this
Yeah.
information is not to be released. You know, this
Until-
picture, this
Yeah.
whatever PR, and that's not happening clearly.
And as we know, because we've reported on headlines before, they do have a brand management team. So wake up. Where are you?
With quite a few people. But I mean, the thing is as well, how can they control what's released or not when their production office is shut down and RTD's writing a program for
That's
Channel
the
4?
problem. We did say that before on the headlines, haven't we? We have spoke to the fact that there'll be nobody there. There's no production office there because the production is shut down. It's currently dark, and so there's nobody looking after it. So it must all be being done by the odd individual.
Well, that brand team are doing a bang-up job, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Tim Kintz, any mention by RTD of the Doctor Who team being a hyper-skilled lot who leap into frantic action is so painful. It is, because it's
via email.
Exactly, yeah. Woo! We've got here Paul Rose, JT, they're all donuts. And the Nate channel is saying, bring back the Daleks with a fresh new design. Our Nate channel. I don't think we're going to get to see the Daleks again for some time. Yeah, they're problematic. I don't think it's going to happen, my friend. But you never know. You never know. David B, the trailer during the rugby was more of an own goal than a drop goal. See what he did there? And Domgo, if it was a big-time show, they would have been more careful. Sadly, it's a show that simply no one cares about anymore. Yes, I think you're right on that one, Domgo, because certainly I think people have moved on. I think they've moved on.
Yeah.
Dalek Eye, you may say this and you may think this, but we couldn't possibly comment. And John Steed is saying, to a setup comes to mind. Paul Stenterford, I'm pretty certain that the transmission date was deliberately dropped during a sporting event in order to grab headlines. RTD's desperate attempt of trying to promote the show. I mean,
no,
the Whittaker thing was dropped during Wimbledon. I know it was planned, but it is a sporting event, and they've done it before. Haven't they? Haven't they tied in Doctor Who with sport before?
Yeah, the new companion reveals or things like that during FA Cup football. But this was under 26 Nations, which is only available on iPlayer and the BBC Sport app and things like that. So if they were going to do it deliberately, it would have been during the men's Six Nations, say, the Wales-England game, which had a decent size audience. They would have done it accidentally during that, perhaps. But no, this was an iPlayer cock-up. Plain and simple.
Totally. The Nate channel. So no Christmas special this year. No, there's no Christmas special this year. There's certainly nothing in production now. There are no plans for any future production of this. It looks like there won't be. There's no way they could turn around something now with no script unless he's written one, and then they can try and do that. But at this time, when we are broadcasting now, the 30th of March, 2025, live at 20:43 UK time, there is no Christmas special in production. Stephen Braddock is saying to us, well, if it weren't a leak, that's worse as its lack of care. Says it all what they think of it. Nothing is saying to us, this era is 100 times better than Chibnall's rubbish. Oh, good grief. And Mark Milford, it must have been bad. BBC has become the McDonald's of TV. That's a good way of putting it, Mark. It's sad. It's actually disgraceful. And Noodle Arms wants to know, will Rachel Zegler going to star in Doctor Who series 2? She would fit right in. She would, wouldn't she? Because nobody's watching her film either. We talked about Snow White.
She's been teaching Ncuti Gatwa how to work with the press and how to cultivate relations with your fan base.
It's true, isn't it? It's terrible, absolutely terrible. And who's this? This is Graf Otter. Hello, Graf Otter. It's nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to Who's Views. Deliberate controlled leak to catch the leakers. They're going to a lot of fuss if it is, eh?
No, you wouldn't do it on iPlayer during an under-20s Six Nations match that very few people are watching.
Exactly. And I'm glad they put the thing back on because, taking it off the iPlayer was a bit extreme, wasn't it? The rugby will be getting more people watching it than Doctor Who. Let's face this. Hello, Josh H. There is no Christmas special and almost certainly nothing in 2026. The Reality War might be the last Doctor Who episode before 2030. Yeah, it could well be. It could well be. But as I was mentioning in the Live at 6 show before this one today, Kirsty was telling me early today that she's noticed in shows like Gladiator and EastEnders and something else I can't remember, that Doctor Who is actually playing on televisions or around or involved in the show or something like that. And I think that must be all part of RTD's script to do with the Reality War. And I think it's one of those things that, had the series been better, could have been quite clever, but nobody cares. You know.
Yeah, I think I
No.
saw a still of the Doctor and the Companion on the set of The Traitors.
Oh,
So
right.
the sort of breakfast, when is a big deal on The Traitors, and they were. I could, because it was only still, I couldn't tell whether they'd been CGI'd into the shot or whether they'd actually gone there and filmed. I highly doubt it. I think it's all just added in post later. But does anyone care? No.
That just makes it all very dated again, doesn't it? Very much rooted in the now, which in 5 years' time will be so out of date. Not that anybody will watch it.
Absolutely.
It's like the cameos that RTD used to do. Peggy Mitchell,
Paul.
in EastEnders. Yeah, the lovely Paul
That's good.
O'Grady. They're of their era, and it just dates the show, but it's what he does.
It's what he does. It's what he loves to do, because he wants it rooted firmly in the modern day. And that leads us to what we've got to talk about now, because he has revealed that the second series that is about to start in a couple of weeks has been a challenge. Again, in the pages of Doctor Who magazine, but for our purposes, reported by Digital Spy. Doctor Who's RTD reveals challenge with new season as he changes essential part of the show. It's been a real challenge to avoid it for an entire series. What's he talking about? Well, let's get into this. Doctor Who boss RTD has revealed a particular challenge with the show's new season. The show is due to return for its 15th season next month, April, and will introduce new companion Belinda Chandra. I did look this up again. I think it's Farada Zeto. I'm going to have to look it up because I can't say her name properly. Showrunner RTD has now explained to Doctor Who magazine that Belinda is a companion desperate to get home, much like former characters Ian Chesterton, Barbara Wright, and Tegan Jovanka. However, an unknown force is preventing her from returning home, meaning that the essential element of modern-day Earth will not appear at all this season. Of course, he says, it means keeping the TARDIS away from modern-day Earth. RTD wrote via Den of Geek. Normally, I think you should keep revisiting the present day. It's essential. So it's been a real challenge to avoid it for an entire series. Teasing Belinda's aim of wanting to return home, the show boss further shared, it gives Belinda something to spark up against the Doctor. She's not in love with his life or with the TARDIS, but the whole thing works because, of course, she starts enjoying it. She thinks they're wonderful and eventually admits it, but it's a different kind of buzz. It stretches different muscles. It's a performance thing too. Janet Fielding did it brilliantly with Tegan. Speaking last year about joining as Belinda, Verada said, I feel like the luckiest person in the world. It is such an honor to be part of the Whoniverse. I am so grateful to the whole Doctor Who family, because that is what they are, for welcoming me with open arms and making me feel so at home. I couldn't ask for a better team than Ncuti and Millie to be on this adventure with, so this is so much fun. So there's the whole premise about this. This looks like it's going to be the first series in the reboot's history over 20 years and 15 series where the modern day faction is not in the episodes until possibly the Reality War. So that's going to be a culture shock for some of the new Who fans. Or is it? What do you think?
It won't last the full series because isn't Millie Gibson still on Earth?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen her in the trailer. We've seen her in the trailer.
Yeah. She's working at Unit.
Yeah. There we go. So
aren't they all working for
Yes,
Unit?
they're all there.
They're all there.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for K9 and Chameleon to pop through. But yeah, I mean, but it goes on for this whole thing, doesn't it? About this whole Reality War thing. But why would you say that he's kept them away? So if we're assuming, like one of our viewers last week on Headlines was saying that they've heard that the Millie Gibson episode is the Dr. Light one with those creatures I've shown before on the show with the red eyes, and her boyfriend. So that's a Dr. Light episode, but that's still, as you say, Bedwyr, that's still going to be in the modern day. Or is he trying to suggest it's not Earth?
It won't last the full 8 episodes. By the time we get to the Reality War, they're clearly going to be on Earth, if not the penultimate episode. So take it with a pinch of salt. He's talking out his backside.
Yeah, he never sticks to what he's saying. Never does.
It's a weird promotional attempt, but
it is. The reason I mention this, of course, is because it's in Doctor Who magazine. It's been reported, but we're going to be looking at this as we get into the reviews. We will remember these things, everybody, because he has a habit of contradicting himself, doesn't he? So we will remember this. It's all here on the receipts with Who's views, I can assure you. Robert Payne, could the reality world have been tipped off by those TARDIS models Shooty had at that hotel in Joy to the World? Oh, I see the little police box things in that episode. I have no idea. I don't care. Robert's paying far more attention than I am, everybody. And Chris Graham, hello, Chris. If I was a Doctor Who producer, I would make the 2025 version of Paul McGann's audio, The Chimes of Midnight. That would be a brilliant Xmas episode this year. We were all agreed that Robert Sherman's script for The Chimes of Midnight is a Doctor Who classic on audio. I think it would work beautifully well with the correct production team and production values as a 2-hour movie.
And cast, yeah.
I think
Not
it was
this show.
wonderful. Yeah, but I'm sure there's a lot of rights issues and stuff there as well. Bryn Mawr is saying to us here, the lore of the new series is completely banjaxed. That's a good word, isn't it? Banjaxed. That's a very Doctor Who word, that. Dimensions
I
of
think
Time.
that was the name. I think that was the name of a. Sorry, JT. I think that was the name of a Terry Wogan biography.
Oh, was it?
Autobiography. I think you wrote one called Banjaxed. It's the first time I ever heard it.
We've got an awful lot coming up here with that. Agreeing with Duncan here with Dimensions in Time Part 3, please. 2 was enough. 2 was enough. But we have got here the last 2 episodes set in EastEnders set like Dimensions in Time. And Julianne, it's all tied into the Breaking the Fourth Wall stuff left over from the last pile of rubbish. Well, yeah, apparently, what's the name still in it? Anita Dobson's character. I did write down the name of the character, but I've lost it.
Mrs. Flood.
Thank you. Again, I'm not paying attention. I can't retain this. You know, ask me anything about Doctor Who from 63 to 89. I can tell you like that. But this stuff that was on last year, it's just not in the memory banks at all because it was just so bad. Hello, Mrs. Lisa Pertwee. How are you? Nice to see you. Lovely. Good to see you. We are going through currently here on Who's Views what RTD has been saying with the new edition of Doctor Who magazine that has been published over the last few days. So yes, he's talking an awful lot about stuff as well. So we will see, won't we, as we get through to the series on that one. But in that particular part of what he was saying there, he's saying it was a challenge not to return the Doctor and his companion back to modern day Earth every other episode. I would think it's only a challenge to him.
Yes. Yeah. Barry Letts and Terence Dix and Robert Holmes and Philip Hinchcliffe, they never had any problem, did they?
They didn't. David B is actually saying, yes, it was Terry Wogan book title. Oh, God love him. Thank you for that. What else has he been, Doctor Who magazine been saying? Yes, what also they've been saying is they very kindly gave us a new series preview. So I know you're all looking forward to this, but we're going to go through this particular bit now, because check this out. Again, reported in Cult Box, Doctor Who, the first 3 season 2 episodes previewed. Doctor Who magazine shared a preview of the first 3 Doctor Who season 2 episodes, The Robot Revolution, Lux, and The Well. What follows are summaries of what was revealed. Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, appears in every season 2 episode, according to RTD. Oh, good. The Robot Revolution was written by RTD and directed by Peter Hoa. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Under a starlit sky, 2 teenage sweethearts share a moment. Alan Daniel Budd, played by Johnny Green, presents Belinda Chandra, played by Barada Setu, with a certificate stating that he named a star in her honour, Miss Belinda Chandra. 17 years later, Belinda is working the night shift as a nurse at London's Able Free Hospital. Later in the very early morning, robots, voiced by Nicholas Briggs, you'll all be very surprised to hear, smash their way into her London home. They're from the planet Miss Belinda Chandra 1, and they want their queen back. Belinda is taken away in the robot's rocket. The robots are waging war against the human Miss Belinda Chandra kind. The Miss Belinda Chandra robots, I'm going to hate saying all this, serve a single master, the AI generator, a being of immense processing power and zero patience. Dare to disagree, and you're fried to a crisp. It gets worse. The AI generator wants to marry Belinda. Can the Doctor rescue Her Majesty Queen Belinda and quash the robot revolution?
It seems to go below Space Babies, doesn't it? It's plunging.
I
the
was
depths
going to
at the
say, I'm now finding the idea of Space Babies, which I've not seen, more appealing after that nonsense. What on earth is that? Good God!
It's
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he tried to bring it back in 2005? I think I've said this before, but in relation to different stories, could he have brought it back in 2005? And with a story like that, it would have died on its ass. And it's more important that it comes back now than it did in 2005. But no, what an idiot!
It's part of this whole thing that he's forgotten what science fiction is, hasn't he? And he's forgotten certainly what Doctor Who is.
Yeah,
You know,
but he's got to get a dig at AI in there.
Yeah, the AI generator. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't set my world on fire. This particular first episode of the next series. What about you lot in the chat? Let us know.
It's not making me want to watch it.
Yeah, John Steed is saying, "Well, bless her, shame
Sell
she's
it
only
to me,
getting one
RTD.
series."
Come on.
But bless her, shame she's only getting one series. I have to tell you as well, John, and everybody in Who's Views, that Verado. I'm not saying her name right. I know I'm not. I'll have to learn how to say it. But she is also simultaneously going to be on a show on You. You know the channel You. It's called Anika. And she's in that as well, I noticed on the trailer when I was watching Bergerac the other night.
Oh,
so
is that the one with Nicola Walker?
That's right, yeah. And she's in this. Yeah, so they're all in that. So she's doing very well. You know, she's going to be on Doctor Who and this Anika one at the same time in April. So she's going to be on twice a week with a show that people will be watching and Doctor Who. Really. What's Small Goat. New Who fixation on modern day Earth and modern day companions got old really fast. Have companions like Leela or better yet Jamie stop doing domestic soaps. They really are embarrassed of sci-fi. Well, in my opinion, that's all RTD knows how to do, really. And I think we're going to see an awful lot of convoluted nonsense coming in here, going back to 2023. As Chris Graham has reminded me, Mel's on Earth too. But didn't Mel say something about an intergalactic taxi or something like this or what have you? And Mel is in this series. We can't forget Bonnie is back. Hurrah. So
do you think that's what the taxi is in the preview?
There's so many bits that he's left hanging, the Mavity nonsense and all this sort of stuff. And he's only got so many episodes now to tie it all up.
He's not going to do it all. There's going to be so much left hanging. So much.
And that's what we will be talking about here as well. Paul Stenford saying the unknown force is probably the Guardian of Chaos, also known as the Black Guardian. If that's the case, then nobody cares. RTD is just ripping off the past once again. Well, Paul is absolutely adamant that the Black Guardian is going to rear his ugly head, or possibly even her ugly head. These days in this next series, he's absolutely convinced. And when you look at the thing at the end, the reality war and the mess that's gone on there, it could well be. We shall soon see.
He'll have the White Guardian played by a black actor because black people good, and he will have the evil Black Guardian played by a white male actor because white men bad. Because he's already done that, hasn't
he? Yeah. I don't have a problem with things like that though, because the black and white Guardian, it was established in the original show, can present themselves as anything. You know, so I've no problem. You can't, you know, I'm whatever, whatever. But there you go. What have we got here from Jane? No, RTG, it was not an essential part of the show. It's part of the problem with New Who. Anyway, with only 8 episodes, it won't take that long to get her home, will it? And what about the Ruby episode? Chris Graham is saying, why am I thinking the Mind Robber alternate reality? And Josh H, Dr. Light episodes surely have to be in there for a reason. You can't just have a random episode without him. Well, they have done, Josh. They have. I actually think he was being a little bit precious. You know?
Well, they're clearly going to start on modern day Earth, aren't they? Well, we've already seen that scene in the hospital. So it's already in from the outset. It's just after that he's going to try and avoid it for a little bit until he panics and has to go back to unit.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's where he goes to solve everything these days. Frankie Sanaga is saying to us, RCD, the Woke Warrior, stuck in 1982. And Lex, hello, Lex. It looks like a bit of a storyline of the Impossible Girl and Martha Jones storylines. He's running out of ideas. Recycle stories they are. Yeah, especially, as I say, it's been done in the show before. You know, it was done with Barbara and Ian in the original story, years ahead of its time. And then, of course, it was done with Tegan.
Yeah,
touched on with Adric as well, to be fair.
Yeah, and even RTD era, you know, where was it series 4 when Martha gets taken on that god awful Doctor's Daughter episode.
Oh yeah.
You know, it even RTD's tried it before and like no one cares.
There's certainly no audience now, as we were going to be coming to in this edition of Headlines. So stay with us, everybody. Hello, Mike. Mike Disney is with us. It seems RTD is aiming for sub 1 million overnights. Good, because I'll get a pencil. Yeah. Mark Jones. Hello, Mark. If that or any other episode with Gatwara Whittaker are so bad if they were played at my funeral, I would get up and walk out. Iron Graham is saying no actor will ever get anywhere near Valentine Dial's portrayal.
No.
Don't even try.
No. But they might be. We'll soon find out, won't we? Because they did rename him to the Guardian of Chaos for all the merchandise last year. Mark Greaves, thank you for your super chat. He hasn't rescued anyone in 2 years. Half the episode runtime will be taken up by saying the planet name, so we won't have to flesh out the plot. I'm sure we're all looking forward to saying it, Mark, aren't we? Planet Belinda Chandra. Oh God, yeah, it's going to be.
Oh, he's done that before as well, hasn't he? With Rexacorico Fallopatorius.
But that's more creative.
But that was funny.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
It wasn't actually tied to the plot of the episode.
True, that is true.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, it was just a made-up name. Hello, Andrew. Hope you're well. RTD is like the Absorbaloff from Love and Monsters, absorbing past writers into his. Yes, okay. Don't know if I can say the rest of that for the podcast, but I just don't know what I can say anymore on this platform. No. Honestly, I just don't know what's going on. But we'll be careful. But that's funny, though, Andrew. Thank you very much. Stephen's saying to me, it's the same plot from The Girl in the Fireplace. Robots go after a woman due to mistaking her name. He's out of ideas. This is what we're discussing tonight. And John Henson, hello John. Intergalactic Taxi, it's more bog vanish audio. I totally agree. I agree with John there. Totally.
The Girl in the Fireplace isn't even his own idea. He's stealing other people's ideas.
That's true. Yeah. I hope David Tennant doesn't return again, says the Nate Channel. I don't think
might save the show.
You're funny. Let's get back to the next one then, because Doctor Who magazine does carry on. And again, from Cult Box, Lux was written by RTD and directed by Amanda Brocci, I think that is. It's Miami, 1952. This is the one that has been spoken about an awful lot, of course. The Doctor and Belinda investigate the disappearance of 15 people from the Palazzo Picture Palace cinema, where they encounter a cartoon character called Mr. Ring-a-Ding, voiced by Alan Cumming, doing an American accent, who's a sinister, wisecracking new enemy who isn't as two-dimensional as he first appears. Now, interestingly, Lux features hand-drawn, frame-by-frame animation by Framestore. So why are Framestore doing something for the actual show and not the DVDs and the Blu-rays?
Because it looks shit.
But don't they all? I think that's part of the story, this cheapness. It looks a bit like the Flintstones in the background, doesn't it?
If Cummings doing American, shouldn't it be an American doing an American? Because it should be a gay doing a gay.
Oh, you and your logic.
I love how they've got to specify. Don't worry, Alan Cummings doing an American accent. He's not doing his Traitors US stuff. He's doing an American accent.
But you know what? He's been in America since what? The late 80s, early 90s. So he's more American now than Scottish. You know. Well, there you go. At least we're not getting to see him again because he winds me up these days. But that's that one for you as well. So that's the cartoon one, isn't it? With that character, Mr. Ring-a-ding-a-dong-dong, ding-ding-ding. We're going to have fun with that. Tell you, have fun with that one. We move on to the third one. The Well was written by Russell T. Davis and Sharma Angel Woolful, who we've covered on the show before, and again directed by Amanda Brocci. Stranded on the inhospitable planet 6767, the Doctor and Belinda team up with a platoon of troopers who have been sent to investigate Colony Base 15, a mining operation that they've lost contact with. Arriving at the installation, they soon discover something is very wrong indeed, and that something soon reveals itself to be at the heart of the Doctor's worst nightmares. So, expect lots of crying, but that does at least sound Doctor Who-y.
Sounds like the Impossible Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound more science fiction for a change. But again, yeah, as you say, Ian, it feels like it's just something we've seen before, done before. And the villain's got to be good. Otherwise, it'll be just another generic episode of Doctor Who in this era.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? We've got a lot of you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us with all your comments. Just Jordan, but the TV sort of thing has been done before, like with David Tennant in the Coronation episode. That's a good point. What was that called? Was that The Face? The Wire?
Idiot's Lantern.
Yeah, for The Wire, wasn't it? Yes.
Maureen Lipman, yeah.
Maureen Lipman. She used to live down the road from me. What else have we got? Mark, lovely lady. Mark Greaves. If he's absorbing other people's ideas, why isn't he absorbing the good one? Julianne is saying The Well. It sounds like the Satan Pit. Agreeing with you there, Ian. Yeah. Also, Marjorie is saying the same thing. The Well is like the Satan Pit. It's another recycled episode. Colony in Space, says Frankie. Yeah. John Henson is going for Bewitched.
Although the idea of the Doctor's worst nightmare is a bit like the Minotaur episode, the Matt Smith episode in the hotel.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was called now, but that sort of feel of, what is the Doctor scared of? Yeah, it's been done. Come on.
Yeah.
What I'm loving about this particular part of tonight's headlines is that you're now all looking to spot the episodes out of these new ones that are coming in. It's really good. Looks very much like the Impossible Planet, says Lex. We've got the third one, says John Steed. Sounds like Oxygen.
Spacesuits look similar.
Yeah. We've also got this from Small Swall Goat saying he was crying in the second trailer again. Why don't anybody subscribe? Of course, as part of our new series of reviews, we are introducing the crying game. So come and join us for that. That's going to be part of what we're going to be doing.
You need a drink in your hand.
Well, that's it. Somebody has actually already said that's a great drinking game. But yeah, 2 episode synopsis in, and I already know I need to order more turf, says Legion of James. There's not enough grass left on my lawn to get through this utter nonsense. Digby is saying that a Satan Pit retread, and David B is saying the Doctor's worst nightmare would be regenerating back into himself.
That's just the viewers.
Yeah. Problem Being is also saying Satan Pit 2, and Shelley is saying I've heard it's a sequel to Midnight. Oh, right. Oh. This is the one that he had said is the scariest one of the series, isn't it? And it's the one with the actor. I can't remember. We'll come to her in a second. The cartoon idea is from Fear Her too, says Robert Payne. Oh yeah. I'd forgotten about that because it was so awful. But that was that one. That's The Well. Okay. And then it goes on to this from The Well. Rose Ayling-Ellis guest stars as Alice Fenley, a young mother in a perilous situation. She's desperate to get home to her 2-year-old daughter. The Doctor is able to communicate in sign language with Alice, who is deaf. The troopers communicate with Alice via holographic subtitles. The troopers don't understand sign language and don't always use their holographic translators, making a tense situation worse with a breakdown in communication and trust. Well, that's not got a message, has it?
So is it getting her home as well?
No idea.
Is it going to end up like Wagon Train, where the TARDIS is getting everybody home?
Yeah, it's going to turn into a great big feather. Very across the stars.
Yeah, I mean, Rose Ayling-Ellis was phenomenal on Strictly, and I'm so glad she won that series because she deserved to. But this is very much, the way they handled being deaf on Strictly, it was, quite clever and smart in terms of it's, they're dancing to music, and this is just just slapping you in the face if you don't know sign language, or don't accentuate your speech for those who lip read, and yeah, it's another vehicle for making us feel bad about,
What we can do is we can compare this episode, The Well, to how it was done last time with the flood in Peter Capaldi's time, because we had a deaf character there and none of us batted an eyelid, and it was just another character, and it was beautifully done. And it's only now that I realize what was going on there, because it was just the norm, wasn't it? It was just normal. Whereas everything now, of course, because they're enforcing stuff, it doesn't feel normal at all. It just feels like you're being bashed around the head with it. So, the floods and stuff, we'll have to look at how this episode compares to how they presented it back in Moffat's time. Name that rehash, says William Orlock, 86. Hello, William. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah, name that rehash. Copyright, trademark, Whose Views from now on. Thank you very much. We've got that. We've got Julianne saying, his worst nightmare, running out of moisturizer for sensitive skin. That's mine. That's mine. Never, ever will I run out of oil of Olay. No, it's not going to happen. Carwin is with us. Hello. Sorry I'm late tonight. That's because he's got a new job. So RTT is recycling his ideas, or one of them. Ooh, get you. Ooh. Next merchandise available, says Paul Rose, Tiny Tears, the Doctor edition. And Duncan is saying to us, I'm going to need a case of wine per episode at this point. Start getting it in now then, so it arrives on the Friday. Silver Wolf, hello Silver Wolf. I wonder if they're going to do the same as the first series and try and put it in competition with the new Snow White film in the cinema. I think they're both going to give themselves a run for their money, I tell you. And I can't say this. Is this Zarbadzag? Zoki? Sok? Apologies. But hello, it's lovely to see you. Where are you? Welcome to Whose Views. Do you really want to get an alcoholic poisoning? Cat was crying drinking game is banned by the Geneva Convention.
This is why the third series isn't coming back. It's too much torture.
We'll all be comatose. That's what it's going to be about, yeah. But hello, it's good to see you with that big butch mouse rat thing you've got there. But yes, sorry about my pronunciation. I'm terribly sorry about that. But it's lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us. John is saying to us, John Steed said, episode 3, oh, well. Yes. Julianne sounds really ecstatic and happy about this series. For the podcast, she's saying, "Oh God!" And Noel Thrussell's arrived with us. Hello, Noel. How are you? All right, everyone. Doctor Who is set to patronise more disabled people again. Says problem being, we're going to have to see how it's all written there, isn't we? But Duncan is saying, yeah, a deaf person with sign language again. That was in the Capaldi two-parter.
It's been done.
It looks like another greatest hits package, except it might not be greatest or hits. You know what I mean?
Sounds like it.
We'll soon find out. 2 weeks to go, everybody. We've got this from Mark Greaves. I've touched so much grass, I'm now an AstroTurf for longevity. And Timkins, oil Ulay is quality, bruv, nice. Well, thank you very much. Please never let it change. Thank you. How many more seasons, says the Nate Channel, does new Doctor Who have till it takes a break, you think?
This one?
No more after this.
Yeah, I'm agreed with that, Nate Channel. I think the time is up. I think this is it. We will soon know. And that's, of course, where we'll be here talking about it here on Headlines. So make sure you are subscribed, everybody. Just Jordan is saying to us, inclusion is meant to be about being able to fit in and not slapping people in the face with it every goddamn time. The point is being completely missed. And overused, of course, because they've shoehorned in absolutely everything. And here, it's Sarbad Chag So K. It's Hungarian, but don't sweat it. Oh, well, thank you for your patience with me. Sarbad Chag So K. Hungarian. Oh, this is lovely, this, isn't it? Getting people from Hungary land now. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Is he watching in Hungary? Or is... Are you watching in Hungary or are you watching elsewhere? Just be curious.
Yeah,
see our reach.
I love a reach. And Gilliam, hello, Gilliam. I'm avoiding all spoilers or just avoiding this altogether. Well, we're actually giving you some Some spoilers here, I can tell you. Lex, thanks for your super chat. Could you say hi to Winnie, my mum? She went for a hospital test yesterday and she's been unwell today. Oh, well, listen, Winnie, get well soon, lovely, and happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. But yes, get well soon. Not easy when you go through all that nonsense, is it? But there you go. But lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. Hello, lovely. As J&T used to say, says Duncan, stay tuned. Whatever for. Oh, to us. Yes. Yes. Stay tuned to us. We don't care if you don't actually watch the actual show, but come and see us when we start a review show. Exclusion is the new inclusion, says Frankie. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Well,
Really
just picking up on just Jordan's point, I think it's interesting that that bit of spiel is making the fact that the character is deaf is generating drama from that, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
Because if that's the premise, if your premise isn't strong enough to create drama on its own, and you're having to insert her character misunderstanding or not being included in conversations, then you're just that's not a strong enough premise to start with.
No, it's a good point, isn't it, everybody? That is a good point. Yeah. I knew we'd invited them on for some reason. But listen, it's a case of if you are interested in these 3 episodes or the whole series that is coming up, everybody, well, you'll be delighted to know that you can already pre-order the BBC Penguin Target books of them, because they've been announced this week. They're going to be out in July 2025. You're going to be getting The Robot Revolution by Una McCormack, Lux by James Goss, and The Well, written by Gareth L. Powell. There you go. So you can pre-order them now if you can find a bookshop. You might have to go online because there's not many bookshops left in the UK, and with WHSmith disappearing very soon, there goes that idea. So anyway, but there you are. If you are interested, goodness me, yes, they're churning them out again. A new set of Target BBC Penguin books for you are on the way in July. Yippee-doo. I can hear all the excitement right now coming from you all.
And I believe you can pre-order the Steelbook release of the entire series on DVD and Blu-ray, because why on earth would you do that?
You can pre-order it all on the various usual sites, but there's no release date for it, although I have been told it's not until January. January 2026. We'll let you know, possibly, maybe, if the release date changes that. There's no cover for it yet, but I guarantee we all know what the cover is going to be. It's going to be that.
Something like that, yeah.
Or that. But I think that's more of a DVD.
Probably that one.
Great cover. So I think it's going to be that one. What do you think, Who viewers? Put your bets on right now. No, you don't. I'm only kidding. Okay, so where else are we going to then? Yes, we're carrying on with more LTD news for the time being. As we go into this one, Screen Rant, Doctor Who Season 15's new companion does something I never thought the modern show would, says Daniel Bibby. He's talking about this. Gatwa has explained the dynamic between his character and Viraja Setu's Belinda Chandra in Doctor Who Season 15, and I'm really excited to see how the relationship develops. The way the Doctor interacts with the companion has largely been the same throughout the show's storied history, but the Doctor's upcoming psychic is set to feel very differently about the ancient Time Lord compared to her predecessors. Although Doctor Who's classic era toyed with alternative Doctor-companion dynamics, it has been a long time since the show has done so. There have been several main companions since the show's revival in 2005, but Belinda is just the second of Doctor Who's Disney era. After Millie Gibson's Ruby Sunday left to connect with her birth mother at the end of Doctor Who Season 14, yawn, the 15th Doctor spent Christmas with stand-in companions in 2024's Joy to the World, yawn. Although Doctor Who Season 15 will mark Belinda's debut, she actually set to be the second Doctor Who character played by Setu. However, it's not this dual casting that I find the most compelling about the actress's return. He then goes on to say, I love the thought of the Doctor having an unwilling companion in Doctor Who Season 15. Doctor Who Companion reports that Gatwa has confirmed that Chandra has no desire to be in the TARDIS with the Doctor. She just wants to get home after being stranded. This is pretty much a new thing for Doctor Who's modern era, and I think it's just what the show needs. This is especially true after how visibly upbeat and enthralled Ruby was during her travels with the 15th incarnation in Doctor Who Season 14. The Doctor is very used to charisma working just fine when it comes to winning over companions, but that doesn't seem to be enough for Belinda. Doctor Who's post-revival era has had companions who have flirted with being unwilling TARDIS passengers, for instance, Mickey Smith. who disliked the Doctor for taking Rose Tyler away, but he was never forced into coming with them. Similarly, Catherine
Yes.
takes yes, yeah.
For crying out loud.
Similarly, Catherine Tate's debut as Donna Noble in The Runaway Bride meant she wasn't initially thrilled to find herself aboard the TARDIS, but she eventually grew very close with the 10th incarnation. The idea of seeing Belinda opposing the 15th incarnation whenever she can in order to get home really has my attention. I can't imagine that the 15th incarnation will be too thrilled by Belinda's apathy towards him. No, because he's got an ego. Although the Doctor Who Season 15 trailer reveals the pair will have a few emotional moments, they appear to stem from Belinda's anger and concern that she can't get home to where she feels safe. So the 15th Doctor could end up overcompensating and attempting heroic actions that are far too dramatic for the situation and possibly her affection. Doctor Who has provided evidence that similar instances can backfire drastically. I tell you what else can backfire drastically as well. As we know from the 80s, if the writing isn't good, then this whole thing about a moaning companion on the TARDIS doesn't work.
No.
Because by goodness, we had Tegan and we had Perry, and all they did was moan, especially in the 19th season, where every story was about getting Tegan home. And she would go off on one when the TARDIS decided we're not going to do that. We're not playing that game. And then with Perry, well, she was just a moaning Minnie all the time, so it gets tiring. So the writing even in 8 episodes has to be very good. Do you not think, guys?
Yeah, definitely. Has to be well written, well directed, well acted. And I can't see any of that.
Yeah, I can understand, in the last few years, we've had everyone who's kind of mesmerized by the wonders of the universe and all that sort of stuff. And that's a good narrative. But someone who actually doesn't want to be there is just going to mirror the audience that doesn't want to be there either.
What audience?
Well, whoever's left.
Yeah,
whoever's
exactly.
Well, their review channels.
Exactly. As Josh is saying here, maybe they're really buying into this reality war stuff. Belinda representing the viewers who don't like him.
That's way too deep for them. That's way too deep for them.
It's really. Tim Kids. So how modern companions relate to the Doctor is exactly the same. Then here's a list of how they're different. Shut it, writer. It does come across, guys, as a little bit shallow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's probably very young, so I'm trying to be nice. If he's 30 or 40 and I find out, I'll have you. But he might be young and therefore inexperienced and only used to this.
I mean, that article is entirely speculative from a trailer, so yeah. I can't really comment too much more than that because it's just we don't know.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's an awful lot of chat coming in here as well. We've got here from Robert Payne, who's saying to us, Tegan had the right. Is that coming up?
Yeah, I can see it.
There we go. Tegan had the right to dislike the situation since her auntie died the day she met the Doctor. However, that was conveniently forgotten after episode 4 of Logopolis. Really, I know there is a slight reference to it later on, but it didn't inform her character, did it? Because that's not what they didn't do that back in the day. Now you'd hear about it every 10 minutes, of course. But her main concern was getting home. And I always wondered, even back then, guys, you remember the thing with Tegan is when she gets home, she's going to find out she's terribly lonely because there's no aunt there for her. That's going to really bring that storyline back to her, even if she goes. I mean, it was all about getting to the airport. If you look at Time Flight, stay tuned on this channel because we're going to be very soon. If you look at Time Flight, she's completely forgotten that her Aunt Vanessa isn't there, and all she wants to do is get to the airport where her Aunt Vanessa was supposed to drop her off at that moment in time.
Well, you can't miss your flight, can you?
Well, she couldn't. She gets sacked. But I don't know. I think the fact that the whole thing about Tegan is my point here is we lived through that whole thing about got to get her home, and it got very boring after a little while. They've got to write this properly, and as Ian says, really,
But they did. Is it the visitation where she says that she doesn't want to go back just yet? She's there's less urgency to Tegan, so they did start to tone it down, and then it was completely forgotten.
It was after the visitation. I think it was Black Orchid where she actually says, "Oh, tone it down." Yeah, and I don't want to go back. Just like I want to stay.
Well, the
Visitation
video
was
was a
the la-
2-pack, so it was all one story for me. So
It was a 2-pack.
Visitation was where it really kicked off, wasn't it? Because they landed generally at Heathrow just 400 years earlier, and that's where she threw the broken clock comment in and
Yes.
stormed off and everything
That's-
else. And then it started to tone it down after that.
Yeah. As she started to enjoy her traveling. But again, though, it is basically the same thing, isn't it? Just Jordan is saying to us here, a season revolving around the companion. Groundbreaking.
she'll be saving the day. Don't you worry.
And Bryn Mawr, Tegan and Nissa really just brushed off their close ones dying, and now we're all in deep end in the other direction, crying every 5 minutes about everything. It's true. It really is true. Glenn, hello, Glenn. Janet Fielding herself wasn't impressed with how her character Tegan was written. Yeah.
There's not many companions there were.
Again, I think it's going to be one of those things where we come to do our shows where inevitably for us being of a certain age, or even those of us who are not of a certain age who are aware of the Tegan storyline and even the Ian and Barbara, there's going to be parallels. So from my point of view, I think they are very, very, I think RTD is either going to be very clever in doing this or he's going to misjudge it completely and it's going to go the same way. Am I making myself clear here? Because this is a brave thing to do, to repeat something that's been done in the show before.
I think the trend with RTD is that he'll mess it up.
Well, it's clearly the intention is clearly whatever force is stopping them from going back to modern day Earth is the ultimate villain at the end of the series. That's the whole point of it. So
yeah, of course it is. Yeah, it's pretty obvious, that one, isn't it? And it's not as if anybody's going to be really that gripped to stay with it until the end. I mean, it's 8 weeks, and why am I dreading it? It's 8 weeks. It's 8 hours. But the brilliant thing is we can get to come back here after the episode and we're going to be talking to all of you, and we're going to be hopefully having a little bit of like, it will be you. So yeah, hopefully we're going to have a laugh with this, but
you never know, they might mess up and drop it all on the iPlayer and you can watch it all in 8 hours.
Well, apparently don't be ridiculous. That's never going to happen with me. Can you imagine? It's bad enough getting through one of this, but it really is. It's just so.
I can joke about it because I don't have to watch it.
I know, yeah. Well, if they give us the space babies again, everybody, I'm going to have to get a box of chocolates.
You might be wishing for space babies after the plot for that first one.
Horrendous, isn't it?
It's going to be bizarre. But look, oh no. It might not last 8 weeks, says Frankie. Well, they paid for it, so it's going to be. And Rick Storm is saying, are they really an hour long?
You might be talking about the panel. I don't...
We might be, actually. We might not last 8 weeks. We will. We are committed to it. And certainly we will be after it. The white coats will be back.
The first 4 might get such poor overnights that they do the other episodes 2 at a time, just to get rid of it.
Well, isn't it telling, though, everybody, that they're not this time around showing the Disney standard of 2 episodes back to back on the same release date? Isn't that interesting, everybody? Yeah, they got rid of that very quickly because it was a massive flop on the BBC last year. So it's not happening again. I mean, because last year, of course, it was more or less 7 weeks, wasn't it? Because you had 1 on the Saturday, 2 on the Saturday, so it was 7 weeks. So now they've got that. I'm going to be at least 73 yards away from a TV when Doctor Who Series 2 Touching Grass from 73 yards away, says Silver Wolf. Unfortunately, it's 8 hours of your life you can't get back, panel. Yeah, keep reminding us of that, please, please, please. And just Jordan is saying to us, this channel is the only reason I'll be watching, but my dad is refusing. Well, that's because it's got more sense than we have.
Yeah.
Haven't you, mate? Yes. He'll just come back and watch us and laugh at us because we've done it. What else we got here? And Kirsty's reminds us, I'll be on a plane. Can't wait to miss it.
Bless her.
Every 8 weeks?
She will be back halfway through. Oh, yes, she will.
She's got Tegan's job now. She's an air hostess.
Don't miss your flight.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh, we are having a laugh over this tonight, isn't it? But Just John's also saying says we will be getting rating reviews though, right? I like accurate ratings reviews. Bedweir, you are going to be popping back on, aren't you, to do the ratings reviews?
I will. When we do it, when we have the overnight. So hopefully that'll be in time for the review show. And sporadically, as and when we get +7s and eventually +28s.
Yeah.
And +56s and +220s and
or whatever numerical counting system they've devised to make it look slightly better than the minus figures they're gonna get.
Yeah, so don't be worrying. We will be looking at that, but we will be back to tell us all about the ratings and adding them to all the work that has been done as well. So stay with us. I have Disney Plus and I will not be watching any of it. So Mrs. Lisa Pertwee. Frankie is saying the exits are here, and here. It says Robert Payne also saying it has only not been seen yet within our time coordinates. And Paul Stenford, if I were on a plane when this aired, I'd still walk out. Oh my god, you're all on a ball tonight, aren't you? I tell you, someone else is having a ball at the moment, but not in the same way as all of us this evening on Headlines, because it seems to me that one of our favorites here on Who's Views, and especially on Headlines, is having some sort of denial process going on. Who am I talking about, everyone? Well, yes, it is Headlines and Who's Views favorite, Asya Iftikhar, everybody. Woo! Yes, bless her. She is back. We're working with the Woke Show for Metro. What has she been saying this time, everyone? Will check this out, because she's saying even Doctor Who fans want it cancelled 20 years after the reboot. It won't happen, she says. You can hear the stomping, can't you? Not gonna happen. Nope. She's stoic. That's what she is. I can see her now in a little house in London. Absolutely. But yeah, there she goes. She's denying this. Let's get into her latest piece of journalism. It goes like this. Doctor Who returned with a blast in 2005, but 2 decades into the reboot, is it at risk of following Classic Who's demise? The flagship BBC series has become the longest-running sci-fi show in the world since it started in '63, following the adventures of the Time Lord known as the Doctor and his travelling companions. I am so impressed that she actually even knows about that bit, to be quite honest. The show has seen 15 different iterations of the Doctor, with Tennant playing him twice, somewhere around 50 sidekicks in some shape or form, and explored
around 50. Yeah, good journalism. That.
I know all you have to do. It wouldn't take much to actually look it up, would it? Really, because you can get the number.
No.
And explored the past, the distant future, and edges of the universe. But it hasn't always been smooth sailing for the widely loved series. Now, this bit is weird as well. Only 26 years into its existence, in December 1989. Only 26 years. 26 years is a massive run. It was the longest science fiction continual series in the world, you clown, at 26 years. It beat Star Trek by decades, for heaven's sake.
Can I have a go at this? Because this is, what do you mean only 26 years? There are hundreds and thousands of television shows made every year. Any of them get to 26 years is extraordinary. There are some outliers, obviously, in the UK, things like Blue Peter and the soaps.
Corrie, yeah.
Yeah, but even like the biggest shows in the world at one time or another, Game of Thrones, Friends in the 90s, comedy series like, Frasier and Seinfeld, they have a limited life expectancy. Nothing lasts forever. Stop with this arrogant entitlement that because you love Doctor Who, it's got to go on forever. TV shows don't do that. Doctor Who is extraordinary in its longevity as it is. Shut up.
Absolutely. Well, this is what I'm saying here. There is a level of cope here, everybody, because what Bedweir is pointing out, let's see where that comes from when you look at this article, because she continues, only 26 years into its existence in December 89, the BBC decided to indefinitely rest the show after a stint of plummeting viewing figures and restlessness from senior figures in the company to move on to greener pastures. Does this sound familiar? She would say no. One person who vividly remembers this time is Doctor Who historian and long-term fan David Howe, who has written more than 30 books associated with the sci-fi epic. It was a bit rocky in the 80s, he told the Metro. People were generally still enjoying it, and it was still trying to be innovative and trying to push forward what it could do in entertainment. But in 1984, there was a hiatus because Michael Grade, who was BBC One controller, didn't like the show. He basically decided that he wanted to take it off air. They've printed that wrong, just to correct it, because we all know it was 1985. It's a deep dislike that Grade has maintained over the years. In 2019, he told the Evening Standard that he hated Doctor Who. Who can blame him?
So again,
what?
Sorry, what wonderful journalism again. She's got the year wrong. she's got the year wrong, and she's quoting, poor David Howe. She's gone to the effort to talk to David Howe, but can't even get facts right, as in the year it was put on hiatus.
We're assuming it was her that talked to him. I don't know. It could have been anybody, really. She's just written it up. But here we go. At the time, he added, I said to the producer, this is Michael Gray to JNT, do you go to the cinema much? Have you seen Star Wars or E.T.? He said, yes. I said, well, I've got news for you. So has our audience. What we're serving up as science fiction was garbage. And although the show had reached the heights of even 10 to 13 million viewers under the first Dr. Hartnell, it was averaging a poor 4 million by Sylvester McCoy's run in the late 80s. Now, she's not going to say anything about the similar effects going on now. Watch this. This was after a period of wildly fluctuating figures, and even Colin Baker's time in the TARDIS seemed to be pulling in reliable, although decreased viewership around the 8 million mark. But the decision to pull the plug was still fraught, given its still devoted fan base, and from David's memories, he recalls the launch of EastEnders in 1985 as a significant blow for Doctor Who.
Can I come in there, JT?
Yep.
So she fails again to mention that Doctor Who was moving around the schedules in the the Peter Davison era. You had it moving from Saturday nights to midweek. Colin Baker, it moves back to Saturday nights. The connection with the EastEnders is interesting because that run during midweek, personally, I think is the BBC trialing what days would be good to put this new soap.
Totally. I've had that confirmed with me by a former BBC controller. That's exactly what they were doing. Doctor Who back in Davison's time was put into various time slots in the week to see where the audience was. Now, because it was Doctor Who, the audience was anywhere they put Doctor Who in the week. So therefore, EastEnders followed that, and it eventually went on a Tuesday and a Thursday at 7:30.
Yeah, so she's citing fluctuating viewing figures, but not putting the context of it moving around the schedules. And by the time you get to the Sylvester McCoy era, it is opposite Coronation Street, which is the biggest show on television. So just no context, no research.
No.
And she won't know, will she? Because she's not of that ilk. All she's looking to do in this article is justify people like us, fans, millions of fans around the world, calling for this show to come off because it's embarrassing. She's trying to justify the fact she doesn't want it to. Let's go back to the article and see what else she's saying. Although there were still plenty of fans enjoying it, the BBC decided to end it in December 1989, to which David simply said, of course the fans were upset, but nobody could do anything about it because it was gone. Excuse me. The fandom remained strong off screen, producing books, magazines, and Bog Fanish Productions started producing audio content by the late 90s.
So 10 years later.
Yeah, it was 1959 actually. And of course, in 96, Paul McGann starred in the Doctor Who TV movie. So the stage was set for return under showrunner Russell T Davies on March 26, 2005. And from the perspective of many of the fans, this reboot was everything the show needed. In fact, the way David describes the feeling sounds similar to how the new Disney Plus deal has been approached, offering new money and the latest visual effects. He said, and then when they eventually announced in 2004 that it was coming back under Russell T Davies, everybody was just ecstatic. When it did appear, there was an amazing up-to-date effect, money and budget. It was just everything everybody wanted to see. Doctor Who dragged kicking and screaming into the new century.
Didn't they announce it in 2003?
2003 they announced it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reboot kicked off with a promising start as Christopher Eccleston took over as the Ninth Doctor and Billy Piper came on board as companion Rose Tyler. The consolidated figures for the first episode, Rose, landed at an impressive 10.8 million viewers overnight. The most the show that I'd enjoyed since the early 80s. Although it is rarer for Doctor Who to reach those highs today, it has maintained a consistent popularity despite the changing TV landscape as streaming reigns supreme. When Davis returned as showrunner with the 15th Doctor Ncuti Gatwa in 2023, the show underwent a metamorphosis once more as it launched a new partnership with Disney Plus and a reset to Series 1. This continues.
But that's rubbish, isn't it? I mean, Bedweer, I'll obviously defer to you if you say differently, but it hasn't retained consistent popularity. It's been on a consistent downwards trend since 2017 after Whittaker's first episode.
Let's come back to it. Let's get through this, and then we'll talk it because I've still got a bit more to talk about, and then we'll have the discussion. Remember your points. There has been an increasingly vocal contingent of fans who are not only worried that Doctor Who will be axed, but are even calling for it. Many have pointed to the middling viewing figures for Ncuti's debut season, which seemed to average between 3.5 million to 4.5 million viewers, and have compared it to the situation Doctor Who faced in the 80s. But the comparison is not as clear-cut as some may believe, not least that plenty more fans now watch the show in catch-up rather than just on the night, as was the case during the classic Who era. And that's not the only change. I think it was a little bit different back in the 80s. Doctor Who wasn't at that point a massive, massive brand, David explains. So if they're looking to save some money, I don't think Doctor Who would even register in that discussion because it's bringing in so much. Why on earth would you not make it? It's ridiculous. Of course you're going to make it. It's making a fortune for you. The difficulty is that it's a very different market nowadays. We've now got all the streamers, we've got Netflix, we've got Disney, we've got all of these different areas. So we're all vying for a viewer's attention. So that discussion about money becomes a whole lot more complicated. The BBC's 23 to 24 annual report, which we have covered on this show, even had Doctor Who as the front page image, as well as listing all its major successes. Production of the hit series contributed an estimated 1.34.6 million in GVA to the Welsh economy between 2004 and 2021, and 256 million across the UK overall, the report states at one point, and is mentioned over 20 times overall throughout. And Ncuti's Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road, ended up as the most watched scripted show on Christmas Day in the UK. What's more, the 2025 special, Joy to the World, scored an impressive 5.9 million viewers in consolidated 7-day figures. Meanwhile, in the lead up to season 2, launching on April the 12th, the BBC confirmed it remains one of the most watched programmes on iPlayer. It's the most popular show in the under 35 demographic and was a top 5 show for Disney Plus every week it aired last year. Not too shabby. The BBC had to issue a firm denial after cancellation rumours swirled earlier this year, and RTD confirmed a decision on season 3 with Disney Plus would be made after season 2 aired. As put by David, I don't know where all these rumours about it being cancelled are coming from because the BBC hasn't said that. Disney hasn't said that. What fans are doing is putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 63. Yes, you could jump to those conclusions. Of course, RTD is working on new shows. Ncuti is an incredibly talented and popular actor, and they're only making 8 episodes of Doctor Who a year. So what's he going to do? Sit there for 8 months of the year twiddling his thumbs? The climate today is very, very different from back in the 80s. The choice you've got today is immense, and so is the competition. If you put yourself in the mind of a programmer for the BBC, what do you think is going to make you more money? Okay. Go.
Can I have a run at it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much inaccuracy in what she's written. So not just calling an overnight figure a consolidated figure, that's not accurate at all. She's citing averages for Ncuti Gatwa's first season between 3.5 and 4.5 million. Well, what figure is she looking at? Because the overnight average for the series was 2.27 million. The +7 was 3.71 million. And the +28 was 4.17 across the series. So she's adding numbers up there. What astonishes me the most is the fact that she took the number for Joy to the World as only a +7, where she could have had the +28 day number, which is, bigger and would have proved her point. And she's citing, Church on Ruby Road being the most watched scripted thing. We've had 9 episodes since then. It's nonsense. It's this expectation or this, I don't know, arrogance that because certain people's lives revolve around Doctor Who and they can't exist without Doctor Who being made, they've got to justify its continued existence, even though all the evidence of declining ratings, poor response from fans, poor engagement across social media, whatever metrics you want to use to measure it, it's on the way down, and it needs to have a rest because we've celebrated 20 years. 20 years of anything in television is really good. And every now and then you need to drop it, let it rest, wait for some new ideas and new talent to come through in order to give it new longevity. That's simply what happens.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, the most popular shows in the world have only had a limited lifespan. It's just that's television.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot that comes through on this. I think here it is, as Problem Being was saying, that it is a reach, but it's also a denial that this could possibly be true. That at one date this show has to come off the air. I think this poor girl who is absolutely mad in my book because of all the things we've seen her write. I mean, don't forget, everybody, this is the girl that said, "Sorry, white men, Doctor Who. Sorry, straight white men, Doctor Who was never for you." So she played a very nasty racist card there, as far as we're concerned. But she can't imagine her life without Doctor Who here. And this is what I mean. I have this running gag, don't I? Whose views will be having a helpline for these youngsters. This is what I mean. She's showing me that helpline, which I will be charging an extortionate amount of money per minute, is needed. It is required. If I think they can afford £15 per minute for advice of me telling them grow up and grow a set. Bye. That's the thing. But it's here now in her latest article. Do you not think this is real? This is concerning, actually.
It's that entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think she's delusional, and she flip-flops even in the same sentence. She says fans are concerned for its future, whilst at the same time, same fans calling for it to be taken off. Well, if you're calling for it to be taken off, you're not concerned about its future because you don't want it to have one. But she's just, I don't know, she seems to be living in absolute cloud cuckoo land. Like you say, Bedwyr, her comments about the ratings and everything and the trends are completely off. They're utterly wrong. She couldn't be more wrong if she set out to try to be wrong. Right.
No, I mean she's talking about the Hartnell era. Yeah, viewing figures then went up and peaked in Pertwee Baker, Tom Baker era. Yeah, and we've already spoken about the context of the 80s where it's moving around the schedule, and by the time you get to McCoy, it's opposite Corrie and all that sort of stuff. And again, we've proved on this channel over and over again that apart from Boom, which was the only episode as an exception, the overnight number made up more of the plus 28-day rating than people that watched it afterwards. That's just it's just fact. It's just counting. It's numbers. This whole narrative about, oh, well, everyone's watching on the iPlayer. They're not. More people, apart from Boom, watched the last series on transmission on BBC One, and that's borne out in the overnight figure, which exceeds all the additional numbers that were added pre and post transmission. So it's this narrative that I'm constantly irritated by that just isn't stacked up by basic mathematics. But, there's no journalism here. There's no research.
Oh,
so
obviously.
You wouldn't know that.
It's the woke show. It's Metro, isn't it? Again, and this young lady is one of the crew that we constantly look at. But I love this young lady because she can talk sort of nonsense, and it's so easy to look at the stuff we've got here and see what the problem is. And this is the sort of thing that we're celebrating now. This is delusional mental ill health in certain cases because some of her beliefs are part of the TQ cult, which is delusional. But I mean,
it's that entitlement that my job. My Twitter account, my YouTube channel revolves around Doctor Who. So Doctor Who has to exist. I am manifesting more Doctor Who because I can't function without it. There are other shows out there. Dear God, there's other stuff to get, invest in your life.
Well, they won't see that, really, will they? And this is what concerns me because I've been saying this for a little time. This young lady and her who are so invested in this awful version of our beloved show, will not cope. They will not cope. And that's why I think they're actually terrified of announcing anything about the end of the show, because I think at some point somebody's realized that. You know, they've got, oh my God, you know, this is going to be worse than, you know, Take That, Westlife, Boyzone, name the band, Wham, whatever it's going to be, whatever era you're from, splitting up. You know, this is going to be major for these very delicate snowflakes, basically, that have been created by these extreme left wingers that are now running the show. There's no backbone to these, and I blame the parents as well. Listen, we've got this from Jason in the chat. 4 million Doctor Who under McCoy put against Corrie on a Wednesday is poor, but the current trike with Disney on a Saturday, which could only dream of 4 million, is maintaining a consistent popularity. That's what she says. She's fallen in the trap as well, where, as I've constantly said over years now, you cannot contrast the results of the modern version of Who with our Doctor Who 63 to 89, because television is totally different. And the rating system back then was more concise. It was bums on seats on the night. You had the overnight views, and there were 4 channels in the 80s. There were 4.
You could also make the argument that the increased proliferation of video cassette recorders during the late 80s might have had an impact on number of people watching television. And as you say, 4 channels was more than the 1 and 2 we had in earlier eras of Doctor Who. So those are all factors that should be considered in the same way that everyone cites, oh, well, there's streaming and there's everything else that people are tempted to watch and use their free time for. There are other factors throughout Doctor Who's history, but they're being selective in what they use as order for their own.
I think that's absolutely right, Bedway, because there are so many different factors in the 80s, and we were all there, so we know it as fact. That, you say about the video recorders and everything else, there wasn't as much of a proliferation of mass ownership of TV sets at the time as well. TV sets weren't flat screens. They were big, bulky things that went back away. So there wasn't always a lot of room in the houses for them. You might have a small black and white one in your bedroom if you were lucky.
If you were lucky, yeah. If you were.
Generally, you would be recording it because you lived at home with your parents and they bloody well wanted to watch Corrie and you could shove it, So you had to record it and watch it later. So that wouldn't get counted in the bums on seats or anything like that. And how many times would you rewatch that video? Loads of times, frankly.
Loads, yeah.
But they don't count it. And Corrie was the biggest thing. It was 16, 17, 18 million people were watching that episode after episode. And they put Sylvester McCoy on after that. If you'd put him on against, I don't know, some cookery show on ITV or whatever, it'd have probably got double, triple what he was getting. But it was against the biggest show in the country at the time. It's all there's so many different nuances that she isn't going to get because she's got the brain of a baked potato. So, what can you do?
Well, Stephen Braddock is saying to us here, she's a competent journalist. Duncan the Funky Evans is saying the BBC has learned not to use the C word around Who after 85. I have to say they have. We covered that in our Headlines 1985 special a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago now in February, where we looked at the hiatus of 1985 and the 2 forms of the hiatus. One was in 1985 where they used the word cancelled and it's never appeared again. And then there's the other one in 1989 where it was actually ended and nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. They learned. And I think that's going to be something now. I do think there'll be some sort of announcement one way or the other about the future of the show, but I am quite worried about how some of these young people like Puro Asyia'S are going to take it. Robert Payne is saying RTD has already moved on to a different series and Ncuti has moved out of the UK. So we hear, but RTD definitely, because we've covered it on this, it's called, what's it called? Tic-Tac-Toe, his new TQ cult drama for Channel 4, as we predicted on this show he was going to be doing last year. Just Jordan. And yet the overnights are still the main contributor to their figures. Shows like Mr. Bates versus the Post Office proves if you write a good program, people will stick around to watch. Absolutely.
Yeah, she didn't mention this past Christmas Day where everything got smashed by Gavin and Stacey and Wallace and Gromit, both scripted programs. She didn't mention that.
No, of course you didn't, because it doesn't fit the narrative. This is something I would read from Tom Spilsbury in Doctor Who magazine, I think. I think he would go for this sort of spin as well, to say, everything's fine, nothing to see here, everything's fine, it's all wonderful, everything's brilliant, nothing to see, I'm sure. What else?
I wonder how much is inferred from what David Howe says and how much he actually said. because I mean, it almost makes him sound like I thought he'd be a bit more of a realist from what I've known of him in the past, but he sounds almost in denial as well. I would have thought.
It depends how they played it, Ian, because David will always answer a question. And how they write around what David's saying is a different thing.
Yeah.
I do know on his Facebook, he actually said this is quite a good article. I did get into a couple of conversations with some people there saying, no, this is absolutely rubbish. Because I went in and said, oh, yeah, this is the woman that said, sorry, straight white men, Doctor Who was never for you. And I started to get attacked on his comments. And I hate having arguments on somebody else's page. But by God, I wasn't sitting there with some of these accusations that were coming out from these twerps that follow him. No. So I started saying, here's the proof. Here's the proof. Oh, they don't care, do they? They don't want proof. They want the fantasy.
They don't like proof because it challenges their narrative. Because
it does, reality.
Facts are inconvenient.
Yeah.
I have a feeling David was asked, by the sounds of it, he was asked for context around the 80s, and he's given that with the extended thing and the original cancellation. But that's then been added to around it with all this other nonsense that is,
I agree with that. I think that's the approach that they've had, and then they've written something around it. Maybe we should ask David, come on the show and tell us all about it. Come and talk to us. Wow, where is she getting this information? Asked Silverwolf. How much money is New Who paying her to write fairy tales like this? She definitely has a vivid imagination. Well, she's a favourite of ours here, Silverwolf, on Headlines. She really is. This must be, the 4th or 5th time she's appeared here. And long may she continue to write stuff.
Solid journalism.
Yeah.
Digby is saying this journalist makes Magnus Greel's assessment of his own work look impartial. Now, she wouldn't get that reference as a so-called Doctor Who fan, would she? She wouldn't understand how funny that is.
Not until there's a 90-minute cut down.
Yeah, don't. And I like this one from Chris Graham. It needs to go back to 4 or 6 episode stories, or at least tell a quality story with the time it needs to shine. Screw the American or streaming model, be innovative and keep it British. I would tend to agree with that as the British man that I am. However, I look around myself these days and say, what the hell is British anymore? Not even Britain anymore. Come on, let's face it. John Steed is saying Norris McWhirter would call this a record breaker at BS with this article. Then there's a name. There's a name. What else is he saying in the chat? Oh my goodness. She's obviously vying for a role in Jack and Nori, says Rick Storm. I'd rather watch, says Paul Schlafter, all of 80s Who over any of this current nonsense. Oh yeah, you and me both, Paul. I'm with you, I tell you. I'd even watch Time Flight. Coming up soon on the channel. Stay with us. Most watch means nothing, says Carmen. If most watch is only 3 million, well, that's not great. They're making must-miss television. Do you get the feeling that somebody might have pointed that out to them over the last year? Or certainly since the downward spiral from the Star Beast onwards? Do you think somebody actually said, excuse me a minute, we need to look at this? This season shall be cringe. I can feel it, says Small Swall Goat. You think so? Hello to Marie UK, who's joined us as well. Good to see you, my lovely. Hope you are well. She's a Star Trek fan, apparently. I was. Anyway, yes. So perhaps, says Problem Being, if she actually done her job and investigated like a journalist, she would have found out, like many fans who have insider sources, that Disney were not happy and have dropped it, allegedly. So we hear. But that's, again, Lee, it's not going to hit her narrative, her belief, is it? Because what comes through this article is complete and utter denial that the thing could even possibly come off the television at some point. It really does. And this is what frightens me about these youngsters who are like this. We've all met them on the internet. We might not have met them in real life, but we've met them, and they're all incredibly... I'm just concerned about them. I might not like them, but I'm concerned about them. I think they're all going to have some sort of fit. Marie UK is actually saying to us, it's hilarious when they say Doctor Who was always woke. It bloody wasn't. And you weren't even born then. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't always woke at all. That's a complete nonsensical lie.
No.
You know? Problem Being is also saying to us, fans want it taken off because we want to protect its legacy, not support the subversion in the short term that it's irreparably destroying it. Here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Actually, it could be a really exciting time because you give it a break, you allow those people who were inspired 20 years ago to enjoy Doctor Who, to become writers, to work in television, to come up with their own ideas, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years' time, we get this new crop of people coming through that write Doctor Who that's new and that's interesting and that's exciting, instead of bringing Russell T Davies back and him rehashing stories that we've seen before, as we discussed earlier when we broke down those 3 synopses.
Exactly.
It should be an opportunity for that generation who's currently so obsessed with Doctor Who to go away, work on their ideas and their stories, and when Doctor Who eventually returns, because it will, because it's the BBC, and have those ideas ready to run with, instead of us having to rely on Moffat coming back or Chibnall, God forbid, coming back, anything like that. Let's get a new generation of voices to come through and to bring new ideas to Doctor Who.
Just like we used to do, basically. Look at Philip Hinchcliffe, the youngest at the time to take on the role of producer. And look what he did with the show. Some classics in his time. Killbot, Kill, please don't do this. He's saying if season 3 is announced, I will buy season 1 on Blu-ray. I mean it. I will do it. Please don't do that. We don't expect you to go that far for us. And Julianne is saying, careful, Bedouin, using facts to support your reasoning and not mental delusion. They hate facts, these people, don't they? They do. And Paul Stansford is saying, well, that does it. I'm never buying the Metro again. If you're outside the UK, you won't understand. That's funny because it's actually a free rag. You don't buy it, you pick it up. But the reason that this has come at perfect timing for us. Babette Bombshell, hello. I've just seen you joining us. Hello. Disney will not remove their fangs from Who. The show will be cancelled, and Disney will still explore the Whoniverse through the parts of it that they already flat out own. They don't own anything. They don't own anything, Babette. They don't own any part of Doctor Who at all. It's a BBC project. It always will be. The BBC are not that stupid. They have Disney only have the distribution rights outside the UK, and they've invested in the program as part of the deal. They have no ownership of the stories, the characters, previous episodes. It's not there. The BBC,
and it's only for the 20 episodes or whatever it is that they paid for.
26 was it?
Whatever.
Can't remember. Who cares?
Yeah.
But
it's not like the classic series or anything like that. They're not showing classic Who on Disney Plus in the US or anything like that.
No. Because that's a different revenue stream, as the BBC have obviously clicked onto, and at some point that's going to be exploited again, possibly very soon, because that's the one, in my opinion, that's always going to make the money. But Asyia'S article there came at exactly the wrong time, because she's very busy there, of course, everybody, saying that Doctor Who, in a nutshell, nothing's wrong with it. There's nothing to see here. It's as popular as ever. But this week, a YouGov poll was published, which proves the opposite. Now, YouGov is, for those of you who don't know, it's a British international interbase market research and data analytics firm. That's all it is. And basically, it sends out these things and say, right, can you fill this opinion polling form in? And they do all sorts of things, don't they, guys? I don't know if you guys have ever taken part in something. I have in the past when it came to views on civil service services. Oh, that was fun. But anyway, this is another one. Let's have a look at this. It's reported by Doctor Who TV. Why current Doctor Who is losing public favour. What the data reveals. Now, this feature is by Joel Lewis, who we have to give credit to because he's very honest with this, I feel. So let's get into his article here. This week marked 20 years since Doctor Who returned to our screens in 2005. As a statistics nerd, I was curious to see how the show is currently perceived with hard data, especially with such a milestone being reached. Conveniently, YouGov released a poll to mark the anniversary, offering some rather eye-opening insights into how the UK public, God bless them, feels about Doctor Who right now. Because this is a YouGov poll known for surveying a broad cross-section of the UK population, the results give us a reliable snapshot of more mainstream opinion. And unfortunately, it is not all that flattering for a series that has spanned just over 6 decades. The data suggests Doctor Who is now more of a niche interest than the cultural pillar it once was. The basics. According to the survey, 26% of UK adults said they had never seen either version of the show, not the classic run from 63 to 89, and not the modern revival that has been on air since 2005. Among 18 to 24-year-olds, that figure jumps to a staggering 39%, suggesting that the show is, in spite of RTD's assurances, struggling to connect with younger generations. And even among those who have watched Doctor Who, the level of enthusiasm is underwhelming. 20% said that they'd prefer the classic series, while just 15% favoured the current version. Another 10% liked both about the same, but 20% said they do not like either. On top of that, 9% said they did not know what they thought. So what does this mean? Looking at the age breakdown, older generations who likely grew up with or remember watching the original series are unsurprisingly more loyal to the classic era. Among the over 65s, 34% prefer the original Doctor Who, while only 4% support the current iteration. The 50 to 64-year-old group shows a similar trend, 32% for proper Who and just 10% for the current. Younger viewers are more inclined to favour the revival era, particularly those who grew up with it. But even in the most supportive group, 18 to 24-year-olds, only 26% said they preferred the modern version. That number will drop to 22% among 25 to 49-year-olds, which is concerning considering this age group is arguably the core audience the current series should be engaging most. In short, enthusiasm for modern Doctor Who isn't particularly strong, even among those you'd expect to be the most invested in it. The big picture. At least from where I'm sitting, older audiences are keeping the flame of the classic series alive. The current era has some support among younger viewers, but even that is relatively soft, and among older viewers, support for the new era is virtually non-existent. Most concerning of all, the youngest adults are the most disengaged altogether, and if there's one thing this franchise needs to stay relevant, it's a new generation of fans. None of this is entirely shocking, especially given that Doctor Who's most recent run with Ncuti Gatwa in the lead did not exactly light up the ratings. Even RTD acknowledged the problems. While some fans like this current iteration, the overall audience figures didn't reflect a resurgence in cultural relevance. With Gatwa's second season on the way very soon, there is still hope the show might find its spark again. As someone who generally wants to see the show succeed, I'd love to see it reconnect with the wider public again. If current Doctor Who is going to continue, this poll makes one thing very clear. It needs to reconnect with old and new fans alike, and fast. So well done to him, guys, for actually writing something here. Again, his name was featured by Joel Lewis. Joel, congratulations. I thought that was a very interesting and very middle-of-the-road article with a nice summary and a good opinion at the end. One thing I got from this, though, is I've been saying for many years now, everybody in Britain will know Doctor Who. What this YouGov poll has shown me is just how much Britain has changed. Because I'm going to say this. So many people have now come into the country, they haven't a bloody clue what Doctor Who is because it's not their tradition. You know, and because Britain is so overpopulated now, it shows me now that Britain has changed so much. Not everybody does. So I've got to alter my opinion now. Isn't it interesting?
I think if somebody didn't know what Doctor Who was, going back a bit, if somebody didn't know what Doctor Who was, they would certainly know what a Dalek was or something like that. And our son had one of his friends round yesterday who was 19, and he said, "Oh, my dad's got a Dalek," and they were blank. They had not got a clue, and they certainly didn't watch it on TV or anything like that. They had no interest whatsoever. It's seems to have no cultural relevance with that demographic at all, and I'm not surprised.
It's hardly as if, I mean, we've got the memories of being frightened, being terrorized as young people, haven't we? We've got the memory of the Zygons, the mutants, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, the Matrix, whatever it wanted to be. A generation who was, as Digital Pollution is saying here, proper Who. A generation that was thrilled and excited and frightened to death and hiding under the bed. You know, all this sort of stuff, that hasn't been allowed to happen with New Who. And certainly this latest situation with Gatwa, where they've removed the frightening element at the moment. They've removed that purposely so as not to make these kids even more anxious than apparently they already are. But this, I mean, this ties in very nicely with what Asyi'a was saying in her article in the Metro, because it's actually proving her wrong again, and actually ties in more with what we've been saying for the last year. Do you not think?
Yeah, I would encourage. No,
Go
go
on,
on.
Bedwell. I was just saying we always got scared when we were younger. You know, although hiding behind the sofa is just a term that's been coined because a lot of the time you couldn't get behind the sofa, but we were all terrified by it. And it was a positive thing. Even Terry Nation said that, didn't he? About that famous comment he made: kids like to crawl up the stairs in the dark just to scare themselves and things like that. It
Yeah.
was what you did, and it built a backbone and everything else, and it was a positive thing. Now they've decided that it's not healthy for a child to be even moderately challenged like that. So let's just wrap them in cotton wool. Let's make them more wet. Let's make them more dependent and spineless. And this is what you've got now, the people that will absolutely crumble or dissolve into jelly the minute they finally take it off the air and they've got no more emotional crutch.
But do you reckon that this YouGov poll is going to go down well with that certain part of the fan base?
Probably not. I would encourage people who haven't seen it to go and check it out because it is really interesting. It's a survey of 4,344 people, Great British adults of varying ages, and some of the that particular article you've used from Doctor.TV, brilliantly put together, but it largely only focuses on age, and there are some other options you can divide it up in terms of region, gender, politics as well, which is quite interesting. You would have thought reform voters like the classic series, but it's a really interesting trend if you look at the numbers. The classic series is increasingly liked as the demographics get older, and the reverse happens when you talk about the classic series. I think the bit that will be quite stark is this idea that nearly 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds haven't seen either version of Doctor Who, and that's going to be quite concerning because that's the demographic that RTD himself trots out as we are targeting. And if you think now, this month we've been celebrating 20 years since Reboot Who started, that sort of 25 to 49 demographic that most people would have fit into, it's still over 30% of people within that demographic haven't seen either version. So in particular they haven't seen Modern Who, so therefore can't form an opinion, get attached to the show, or they just don't like it, so they're not going to engage in it. So if that core section of your audience, which, let's face it, the bulk of your television watching audience is going to be in that 25 to 49-year-old category, and you're losing 30% of it, before you've even started transmitting, then it's no wonder that there's a downward trend in viewing figures, and that will be of most concern because, as that article rightly pointed out, yes, they should be targeting the 18 to 24-year-old.
Well, they are. According to RTD and Julie, they are targeting with all this far left ideological nonsense that they assume that all these youngsters follow, and we know for a fact not all the youngsters buy into that ideological bullshit.
No, they're assuming that they follow that ideology, but nearly 40% haven't engaged in the show. So what they're doing is not working.
Yeah, exactly. And it also makes me realize, can I just say hello as well and welcome to Who's Views to Owly0014. Nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Has the new series started yet? No, it hasn't, Owly. It starts in 2 weeks' time, not this forthcoming Saturday, but a week on Saturday. It starts here in the UK, 8 a.m. on the iPlayer, and then an unspecified time on BBC One that evening. More on that with us next week. Do you not think as well that this is the BBC are obsessed with DEI and drag queens? We know that. We know they're obsessed with it. But it's these sorts of reports that actually show me why they're obsessed with that, because there's obviously a huge market that the BBC and possibly entertainment in general, British entertainment as it was, cannot connect with. And it's all these people that are from foreign climes that are in the country. And this thing just suggests to me that Doctor Who is part of that because it is quintessentially British. Science fiction isn't for everybody either. So maybe they've looked at these sort of things, and that's why the DEI is being pushed into all this, and we're getting all these people now coming along representing a totally different country to the one I recognize. Am I sounding terribly ist? I don't know, but I'm trying to get at this point because Doctor Who is failing, and this YouGov is saying it's failed. Whereas once upon a time, in the world I grew up in the Britain I grew up in, everybody knew Doctor Who. It was massive. Everybody knew John Pertwee and Tom Baker. There was a huge fuss when Tom Baker left and Peter Davison came in. That's not happening now. And I think it's down to what you're saying there. It's down to the connect, Bedouin. It's not there anymore.
No, and when you look at the numbers, if you think the average overall of people that like the current version of the show over the previous version, on average, that was only 15%. And, if you add on another 10% for those that like them both about the same, so that's only a quarter of this group of participants who were polled. So if you're only engaging, if the modern show is only engaging with a quarter of the population, the way YouGov go about it is, they get a broad spread of participants, and so is trying to closely reflect the British population. If you're only engaging with a quarter of the population, you're onto a loser to start with, really. Because it's not, as you say, it's that you're not generating enough buzz, enough excitement from enough of the general public. Remember, the most watched episode of Modern Who is Voyage of the Damned. Okay, it's a Christmas special, but it had Kylie Minogue on it. It was well trailed. It was a big deal.
Huge deal.
You drew in the general audience because it was Kylie Minogue and other stuff. But things like a regeneration and a Dalek story, as we talked about earlier, those are the kinds of things that tend to draw in your general audience. Doctor Who will have a core audience anyway, but what's seriously hampering the ratings and that wider engagement is the fact that it's not connecting with the general public, which it did in 2005-06 when you had David Tennant and Billy Piper working together, and you had massive success at like National Television Awards and everyone crying their eyes out at Bad Wolf Bay scenes.
Again, though, the country is so much different to what it was in 2005. The last 20 years, it's totally different. We've got more people in this country on our island than we've ever had before, and I just don't think they're paying any attention. And the fact, the fact is, it opens it out to me, this whole thing, to be saying it's not just Doctor Who. This could explain why the BBC is losing viewers left, right, and centre, because it's not connecting. And the more they try to connect with all these categories and all these tick boxes that people are obsessed with now, the more they alienate them. And Doctor Who has become a victim of that because of their insistence. It has to do this and this and this and this. Legion of James is saying we are slowly losing our identity and our country. JT's point drives that home. It's Doctor Who, a fundamental part of the UK for over half a century, and there's a significant percentage that don't know what it is now. It is sad days, but I wonder if it's about that.
The global population has grown, exponentially. That's fact. Again, it's counted as maths, but you'd think if there's more people available, with television sets to watch stuff, if it's a strong enough show, then the numbers reflect that. Other programs that we've seen, at Christmas, if there's something of key, almost cultural interest, like the finale of Gavin and Stacey and the first Wallace and Gromit that's been on in years, when there's a big sporting event, when there's European Championship football later in the year, or whatever it might be, those will be the things that will get massive viewers. And at the moment, drama isn't able to do that quite regularly enough from what it used to. And is that you're right, is that the demographics of society changing? They need to do a bit more. I think more categories to this form.
I think it's certainly got something to do with that. I mean, you're mentioning the amount of televisions there, but how many people do not have a television license in the country now? So they can't even get that statistic correct because people won't understand. I mean, I met somebody over the last couple of weeks that is new to our country, and as I'm explaining things to him, I had to explain the concept of a television license because he was going out to buy a television. Totally alien to anybody outside the UK at all. And I had to explain to this guy, no, you'll then need to apply online for this. Why? I don't know. Was the answer. You just have to. We've got all that. Thank you very much for everybody here. Stephen Braddock's saying, thank you. We all have the memories of monsters. They have rainbows, crying babies, and drag queens these days. Marie UK say, I used to watch Tom Baker and John Pertwee with my dad, but on VHS's classic Doctor Who finished before I was born, and I loved being scared by the Daleks. I think if these things were, Ron Sapp is also saying to us, what about the children? Are any kids watching nowadays? According to that YouGov poll, no, they're not getting into this sort of stuff. Time has moved on again. And that's why it could also need a rest, because perhaps Doctor Who needs to reform and come back at a time when society is a little bit more current, what's the word I'm looking for? Corrected, normal, whatever it's going to be, if we ever get back to where we could be. It's a bit worrying, but it's not connecting with the British public anymore, which we knew. I've been saying for ages, haven't I, that the British public have walked. It's pretty obvious. But to find out that a lot of the people residing in the United Kingdom don't even know what Doctor Who is, I find that very sad. And I think it's because the numbers are more in our country. I really do. Because, as I say, the Britain I grew up in, Ian, same one as you, everybody knew Doctor Who back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. We all knew it.
I think it's probably an indicator of a wider malaise with the BBC in general, because, like you say, there's a lot more people in the country now. I think since the 90s, it's gone up 10 million that we know about, probably 15 million in reality. And a lot of those culturally won't hold with a lot of the DEI. They certainly won't hold with the trans ideologies. They certainly won't hold with the drag queens in just about every single program, which is very much what the BBC is now. And as a result of that, they just won't bother. And Doctor Who will get swept up with that, aside from the fact that it's crap anyway.
Well, I think that's where it is now, actually. And, they're always going on about reports, aren't they? Some of which I would question and don't believe them. Like they were going on about that report of they know from a report that young people are doing this and doing that and doing this or want this. Hence why they started doing these coloured versions in a watered down version, edit. I don't think that's a report. I think there's the blooming friends that used to do the Time Team. The approved fans, I think they're listening to them. I don't think it's a blooming report. I couldn't find it when I researched it, a report that stated that. So I think they're saying it's a report when they're actually just listening to friends of Benjamin Cooks. But this is a report they need to look at. And surely they have. I don't think they'll be that stupid to ignore it. They might just say, oh, hang on a sec. We don't like this. But they're going to have to start listening. And I think it's going to have to be now.
If some of the statistics that they are citing and trotting out are accurate in that, Doctor Who is the most popular show for the 18 to 24-year-old demographic, then the BBC really is in trouble because, as this poll suggests, that demographic that's engaged in watching Doctor Who is fairly small. So what are all your other channels and all your other shows doing for that demographic? Clearly nothing. So that's actually probably more of a concern for the BBC than Doctor Who itself.
Yeah.
Because these are the people that are going to have to, engage with paying the license fee going forward, or the BBC is going to have to dramatically shrink.
That's the point, isn't it? I think that's actually part of the reason why there's a bloody drag queen on every BBC television show going, because they feel that because that Crohn's Drag Race is popular. Newsflash, it's not that popular. They seem to think that if they can shoehorn a drag queen everywhere, it's going to bring the youngsters. It doesn't work. The Devil's Board proved that. It doesn't work. The rating went down. Putting a drag queen on Question Time isn't attracting a youthful audience. It's just utter nonsense. I think they're desperate, and I think this comes out now thanks to this lovely thing from YouGov, which is actually telling us as fans of a certain maturity and intelligence what we already knew. It's done. It's over. And thanks for our poll and our show as part of our show's marking 20 years. You guys got to talk about this. It was overwhelmingly yes, it's time to call it a day from all the Who viewers out there that voted. Paul Schlefter, I was talking to someone at the gym. He's 22. He really liked the new series, but turned off when Chibnall came along. He's going to watch some classic Who on the iPlayer. I've told him 4 stories to watch. Well, good for you. Good for you. And I hope you bump into him again. He can tell you how he's getting on, and then you can tell us. And if he enjoys them, make sure he comes and subscribes to us here. For mass popularity, says Paul Rose, you need mass appeal. What about that concept is hard to understand to the people in charge of these franchises?
Oh,
It's all about the ideology, though. They are run by ideology now, aren't they? They don't care about facts because they're living in Gaga land. They really are. Rose Kirby. Hey, folks, season 2 Doctor Who starts the 12th of April, ends the 31st of May. It's 314 hours, 13 days, if you're interested in knowing. I'm counting the minutes, Rose. And Kester Drone is with us saying the modern show is as successful as multiculturalism. There must be a link there. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say in this report. I mean, I find it sad now, and I'm going to have to change my argument and my viewpoint there now that everybody in the UK knows what Doctor Who is, because they obviously don't now, as this YouGov report has said. They don't anymore. And that's really brought something home to me since reading the report about the state of Britain today. I mean, we're all aware, but this proved my point a little bit more to be able to say, oh my goodness, lots, oh gosh, I won't go into it anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the categories wasn't race or religious background.
Surprise, surprise, because everything else is going to be from tomorrow. The Nate channel, lots of love from Canada, watching the live Doctor Who chat. Well, lots of love to you as well, Nate channel. Thank you for joining us over there in Canada, and never mind. Rough over there. Mind you, it's rough over here as well. The world's crazy. The absurd license cost doesn't help, says Just Jordan. Exactly. It's true there. It's an interesting subject, this, isn't it? And again, I think it's something that we're going to be coming back to, everybody. Kester Jones is also saying Bad Wolf are the problem. I'm going to suggest to you, Kester Jones, not necessarily Bad Wolf. I think it was Russell. I think it was RTD, because Bad Wolf did a cracking job of Discovery of Witches. I loved that series. It was good quality stuff. They also did the other one that a friend of mine watched and really enjoyed. What's it called? Can't remember what it's called. The books, the children's books that
Golden Compass ones.
What? Yeah, the Golden Compass one. I can't remember what the series, the series was called, but apparently that was very good, and he enjoyed that. I think it's because they listened to RTD. It was all his idea, his driving force, his agendas. He was the main force on this. So I'm going to say it was RTD that was the problem, and shame on him, quite frankly. And for everybody that followed him around like lumbering penguins, grow up. Grow up. Paul Schlefter is saying to us here, people even knew of Doctor Who in the 90s, even though it wasn't on TV. Yes, because the legacy was so strong. And looking at, again, the Britain of the 90s, completely different to where we are today. Completely different. We just started with the whole of the multiculturalism type stuff. It wasn't as immense as it is now, with 300 or 400 people coming in illegally, allegedly, by boats every single day. I don't know.
It won the award in the 90s, didn't it, for the BBC's 60th?
It did. It wouldn't do that. That would never happen again.
No, it wouldn't happen now. Not a chance.
Again.
Still amazed it happened then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was so proud that night. You know, I always say I remember Barbara Windsor starting to get up to accept the award, and Peter Davis and Sylvester McCoy going, gotta get up. Oh, goodness me. Oh, it's a very interesting one. And as I say, I think this YouGov report is something that we need to remember as we move forward into looking at the new series here on Who's Views, because that is coming up soon. Stay with us, because next week we're going to be telling you all about our plans for the new series and how we're going to be covering it and what we're going to be doing, etc., etc., etc. Listen, thank you everybody for joining us in the chat. There's been a lot of you tonight, lots of great conversation as usual. Craig has reminded me, his Dark Materials, thank you, that's the name I was after. And Legion of James was also telling me, by Philip Pullman, yeah, who's gone a bit weird himself, hasn't he, allegedly? He adds quickly. And Duncan, Duncan the Bad Wolf allowed RTD, says Dunky the Funky Evans, was finally able to be the king. Sorry, I mean Queen, he always wanted to be. Yeah, his empire didn't last too long, though, did it? Really?
No, but and he's gone to his head, hasn't it? This power, because remember all those statements he was making not that long ago. Nobody dare challenge him. Who's going to question him? Who's going to stop him?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. There's lots coming up here on the channel with us. So stay with us, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this edition of Headlines. Wow, another great show, Third Doctor Ian. Thanks to Bedweir, who's disappeared.
Absolutely.
Bedweir as well for joining us tonight. Marjorie is saying a brilliant show tonight. Thank you, Marjorie. I hope you've all enjoyed it in the chat. Shempmeister's just joined with us. Well, you'll have to go back and watch the show again, Shempmeister. But it's good to see you. Paul Rose is saying to us, a great stream. One of these days we will have good things to talk about again. I promise. Keep the faith and keep time tickling. And Paul Stenson, thank you for another great show. I really enjoyed tonight. Night, everyone. Indeed. From all of us here on the channel, we'll be seeing you again very soon. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Stay with us. If you have already subscribed to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. Wow, not long to go now until Shooty Gatwa and RTD's Disney Who Series 2 starts.
Yeah, you can just feel the rumbling in your bowels, can't you? That might be constipation. I'm not sure.
I want to say a big thank you to Kirsty and Garbage and Problem Being, who've all been in the chat with us tonight, making sure everybody is good and comfortable. So thank you to you three. We will be back very shortly with more news from the Whoniverse. I hate that term, but stay with us for all your favourites. From the Third Doctor Ian, from Bedweir and myself, we'll see you all again soon, everybody. Take care. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.